from the TFNB Your Bank for Life studio. Now, it's time for the Smoak Show. Presented by Texas Farm Bureau Insurance. We are Texas Farm Bureau Insurance, your insurance provider built by Texans for Texans. And we've been protecting families in our great state since 1952. TFNB, your bank for life, serving Central Texans since 1889. It's time for the Smoak Show on 365 Sports with David Craig and Craig Smoak.
And here we go on this Monday as we get closer and closer to eventually what will be the week of a college football season and games just around the corner. The AP Top 25 poll will be released a week from today. And then, of course, last week we saw the coaches poll. The Football Writers Association of America had their Super 16 poll. Pretty good. That came out over the weekend. I'm David Craig Smoak. Good afternoon, Craig Smoak. How was your weekend, sir?
Good afternoon. Weekend went pretty well, and can't complain too much. Getting as much time as we can in before the weekends are filled up with football, which is a good problem to have, and what we're very much looking forward to at this point in the calendar. So, enjoying a little bit of free time and lack of options on television, and knowing full well here in less than a month, every Saturday is going to be head-to-toe covered in college football, and it's going to be glorious.
I got back from being in Dallas to see Gracie Lynn, Craig, your niece, and my granddaughter, Jennifer and Daniel, had a great weekend. That right there will help you slow down in life, just like going to the mountains in Utah, but this is even better. And I did not even have my TV on for a second yesterday. I just didn't do it. I just kind of bunkered down on some work that I had to do and get ready for the week. Oh, so here we go. And thank you for your time. Arizona today got a pretty neat little gift. Ishmael Mahdi, the running back, it was very good for them last year, and they had that 9-win season. And also linebacker Max Harris are under that umbrella of 5 for 5, at least for now, the ruling in Colorado. And the Arizona Wildcats, who a year ago, again, won 9 expectations with the good quarterback, the great quarterback at Fafita back. And they also get some additional help.
Yeah, I mean, that's great for them if it holds. I think that's the issue that we see right now is there's all these declarations and still no idea if these players will 100% be able to return or not, but might as well throw your name in there if that's what your plans are and let the courts decide the rest. That's all you can do at this point. So for Arizona to get both these guys back, including Mahdi, who's their leading rusher a year ago, I think is a great little addition that you were not expecting to this year's roster. And certainly he's a guy that if you've been following Texas State for a while and obviously Arizona last year, Mahdi's been around for a good long while at this point. So, yeah, that's a veteran guy who can definitely bolster your backfield and help out Noah Fafita. And then Harris is a all Big 12-ish type of player in his own right. So, yeah, that's a couple of pretty good players for Arizona that they'll be getting back who contributed a great deal to last year's team. And last year's team was pretty good, and this year's team stands to maybe be even better. And I think a lot of people you're starting to see kind of catch on to that. I see some of these preseason predictions, and there's the same kind of order of the Big 12. It's Texas Tech and or BYU, some version of that. And then it's Utah, and then it's kind of whatever. I saw somebody's top 25 earlier that Oklahoma State in the back half of it, which I think it might have been Joel Klatt, which is maybe right on the money, or maybe it's a little bit too soon to have them already in the top 25. But any team like Oak State or TCU or Arizona or whoever else you want to throw in that mix is valid to have as a possibility to be in that 4th or 5th slot. So, I think Arizona's in good shape and now in even better shape.
I think that that 3rd, 4th, and 5th spot, I think you can put Oklahoma State there, and if he did, that's great, or in that back half of the 25. Houston, Arizona, Utah, those are teams outside of maybe Baylor, BYU, and Texas Tech, and then all the rest of them, it seemed like they would be TCU. And speaking of TCU, Sonny Dykes at times can be just incredibly engaging. He's a really good football coach. Yeah, they went to the championship game, had the big win against Michigan the year before. The Wolverines won it, got splattered by Georgia, but what a year it was. But a lot of things went into play. Close wins, which you have to get no matter who you are. I mean, look at Indiana last year with a couple of close wins, including that dramatic win against Penn State. They ended up running the table. Sonny Dykes said that his coaching staff sat down, like everybody does, and tried to look at not only who they needed at positions. Obviously, Hoover leaving, they bring in Hayden Craig from Harvard, Jaden Craig from Harvard. But he said also what they needed to do was tighten things up, discipline, not just who you are on or off the field or when no one's watching, but discipline, plays, locked in, and he thinks that they're making pretty good progress with that right now.
Talent is going to be close enough to our opponent to give us an opportunity to win the football game, assuming that we stay healthy and do all those things. So what does it boil down to? It boils down to which team is going to be the most disciplined and which team is going to execute the best under pressure. And I felt like those were areas we needed to improve in. And the way that you do that, I think, is you have to have elite discipline. And you got to have elite accountability in order to have elite discipline. And so that's what I've been really pleased with. I think that as a coaching staff, we recognized that we needed to improve in that area. And, you know, I think we're headed there.
And that's Sonny Dykes as they progress towards that game on August 29th, of course, overseas against North Carolina and the Tar Heels and Bill Belichick. And, man, that year, they had the magical year. We saw it firsthand when at the last-second field goal, when it looked like they were not going to be able to get off a field goal, and they did to perfection, beat Michigan. Yeah, again, slaughtered by Georgia. But everything, all the little things, and you see that, if you can win 2 or 3 games that easily could go the opposite way, you're going to end up with 9+ wins or playing for a conference title. And that's what he wants to try to get that edge back with the Frogs.
Yeah, I mean, I think he's just saying what every other coach is saying and doing. So, yeah, I mean, certainly you're all simultaneously trying to find every little niche area where you can gain an advantage. And for Sonny, clearly he thinks that some of the culture piece could be a part of this whole equation that flips a game for them here and there, and maybe does lead to you being 9-game winners as opposed to 7-game winners. And yeah, I mean, going back to what seems like forever ago now, that national championship appearance run, we're going on like 5 years from that period at this point. I mean, we are flipping the calendar furiously as life just moves so crazily fast. And so, yeah, that seems like it wasn't that long ago, but it's actually starting to kind of get distant in the rear view. Now they're still riding some of that success. They're still in a really good spot. I do feel like the last couple of years, they're just a team without any real identity. I mean, I don't know, like you think of TCU football, what do you think of? You thought of Josh Hoover. You thought of maybe some aspect of his game. You thought Sonny Dykes and quarterbacks, but at the same time, as good as Josh Hoover was, he was never in the conversation for the best of the quarterbacks in the country at all while he was at TCU. Sometimes in the conversation for best in the league, and even then he wasn't just some unanimous runaway with it. So he's had some pretty good players and some pretty good talent, but as a team, they've just been devoid of any type of a personality or an identity in my mind outside of quarterback guru, head coach, pretty good quarterback, and then what? Like some talented players, but not really known for one thing or the other than being pretty steadily good. So being pretty steadily good will work. I mean, 8-9 wins a year, and people can take that for granted, and I think they probably have to some degree with Sonny Dykes. But, yeah, very curious to see them turn over a new leaf with a new quarterback and him dig into the things that can maybe be that edge in another game or two and see how that works out for them. But, yeah, TCU, a team that you just rely on them being dependable, but don't seem to be getting a whole lot of love beyond just like, yeah, they'll probably win 8 or 9 games. So, we'll see if all these changes amount to maybe making a bigger splash than some folks think.
Yeah, and again, they have that game on the road, North Carolina. We've seen teams go over there and it's like the Bermuda Triangle. If you don't win, especially, but they open up with Carolina. Then they have a stretch of Grambling, Arkansas State before the opener in the Big 12 against UCF on the road in Orlando.
It's really important they beat North Carolina. I mean, I know it probably didn't matter that much in the grand scheme of things last year, but I think for the whole conference pride thing, and when you start to break down those non-conference wins and losses at various points of the season, especially in the back half of the season, yeah, I don't think North Carolina stands to be very good this year, so that would be an ugly loss right out of the gates and not a very good look. So I think it's important to go and beat a team that's clearly ailing and clearly does not have its its wits about itself, or at least that's the way it appears from afar. Looking at North Carolina, I think that's a game TCU should win. I think they will win, but I think they need to win that game as well. I'm not saying there's must wins week one out of the gates and that you can't recover from that, but given the state of North Carolina, TCU's got to beat them for their sake and for the league's sake.
Yeah, the league's sake absolutely is important. The Big 12 wins, Power 4 wins, get as many of them as you possibly can. So that's a couple of notes on teams in the Big 12. We will have a writer today, Chris Karpman, on Arizona State. And then also Joseph Duarte, who covers Houston for the Chronicle. And then there are the Florida Gators. Head coach, I like John Sumrall. I remember when he was at Tulane, he just kind of seems to be old school. That doesn't mean it always works for him, though he's been successful, just like Brent Key or Clark Lee, kind of in that same mold. He was asked today about how much does he push his football team during this time of the year to try to get as much of that toughness as he possibly can from them?
Job is to always be demanding that the standard is really, really high and it never wavers. I'm not necessarily into breaking a player down. I am into making things hard. Like, this is a challenging game and tough teams win. And so I think you have to embrace a level of toughness and grit it takes to be successful. I don't have a desire to really break anything down, but I do want our guys to be challenged to the point that they're mentally tough and they can overcome adversity, because there's going to be adversity. And so we create adverse situations every day in practice, but I'm never really prescribed to, like, let's break them down. Now, I do prescribe to the theory of, like, let's push them to the edge. Like, let's make it right there. Let's put our toe right on that line of how hard can we make this. But I don't want guys to break down because I want them to all be available. And so I mean, we coach them really, really hard all the time. The guys are, and if they're not coachable or don't want to get coached, then I don't want them to come here because it's not going to be a good fit. But I don't really prescribe to, like, breaking anybody down. Yeah, I don't know. I want to always build them up, but sometimes you build them up by being hard as shit. I mean, that's, like, just the truth. Sometimes it's got to be really, really freaking hard to build them up. But I don't want to ever break them down because they're broke down. They're not any good.
Florida Gators and John Sumrall, and, of course, their quarterback last year, DJ Lagway at Baylor, and they open up Baylor against Auburn, so a lot of moving parts there. Sumrall has been very successful. I like his attitude. Meanwhile, Florida today also unleashed what they will wear this year, 1 week, to honor Heisman Trophy winning quarterback and Florida Gator great coach and Steve Spurrier. From 1966, Spurrier at his Heisman Trophy year. Here are the jerseys. They released a video here from the Florida Gators football program.
And it's a Gator touchdown.
Spurrier broke every Florida passing and total offense record. His creative play calling at the line of scrimmage caused nightmares for defensive coordinators throughout the SEC.
So there you go. There are the retro jerseys Gators will wear after he won the Heisman Trophy in 1966 and took them to a championship level in 96, winning the national title against Florida State. And I like that look. It's a cool look. They will unveil those this year.
Yeah, I think it's a good look, too. I think it's kind of confusing in the release of it, and I found a lot of fans sort of flummoxed by what they were showing in the video with the white helmets and then the little flash of blue, and then they actually unveil them and they're the blue helmets. So I think the real true nod would have been those white helmets, and that's kind of what was expected the way the video went. And then you got maybe something a little bit different, but those look cool. I mean, they definitely are a nice change up, and maybe not exactly how every Florida fan in the comments that I saw would have pulled these off to pay tribute. But I think the general consensus is they're nice looking, and I think the players will be hyped up to wear those, and it's never a dumb thing to honor Steve Spurrier, especially if you're the Florida Gators. So I think, that's a nice little touch on another game this season and just the whole uniform options. And I do really like the white helmets that are that version of it. So I'm with the group that I was kind of looking forward to seeing those, but blue works too. And I think Florida's a really interesting team this year. It's been a team widely talked about all offseason because of the coaching change and because of just the pattern of irrelevance they've been under now for the last several seasons. And so can he be the guy to drum them back up and energize them and bring them back to relevancy? They better hope so, because if he's not, then, man, this is going on a long streak of not mattering as much as you're used to mattering. And I think he'll do a good job there. It maybe won't be right away that you feel the totality of that hire, but I do think that he was a really strong hire. Obviously, other schools were interested in him as well, and about the best you could do given the environment that you were dealing in. So, yeah, if not Summerall, I don't know who, but looking forward to watching Florida this year and hopefully watching a football team that's got a good head on its shoulders and knows what it's doing.
SMU's Kevin Jennings, we know how good he is and what they expect from him. However, he will be limited with a right finger injury. Apparently jammed it up pretty well. Ty Hawkins will take the first team snaps while Jennings is out. This is from Billy Embody. Limited time, right finger injury. Apparently messed it up pretty good. So they'll rest him or treat him and try to get that thing ready for their opening game, which is in 3 to 4 weeks. He, of course, the straw that stirs the drink for SMU.
Well, maybe typically this wouldn't be that big of a deal if he was going to be fine in the long run, but they open up at Florida State. Mm-hmm. So in Tallahassee is how you're starting off the season there on a night, a Saturday night. So I think, or no, a Monday night for that game. So Monday, September the 7th, FSU on the road. That's a nice, big, juicy ACC game, and we know that not only is there some pretty high expectations for SMU this year, I mean, definitely expected across the board to be a team in the mix for the ACC title. I know Miami's kind of the runaway favorite, but if you're choosing teams after that, then SMU is definitely a team that you have to consider, if not lump right into that second group right there, along with Louisville and whoever else, maybe a Clemson or someone along those lines. But yeah, this is very interesting. I mean, they've got UC Davis in week 2. If that was the opening game, then I probably wouldn't be as worried. But at Florida State Monday night, right out of the gates, that's a big one. And then 2 weeks later, depending on the severity of this thing, I mean, they're at Louisville. So that's one of those teams that's right there with you as far as competing for the ACC title. So, this will be something to monitor for SMU. And they don't lose a lot of games under Rhett Lashley. They have not lost a ton of games. So there's a couple there early on where if this isn't something that gets healed pretty quickly, then that could be problematic for the Mustangs and put them in a little bit of a hole early on, potentially. So, yeah, definitely something to watch here.
All right, I'm going to show you a couple of gifts in a minute, one for a head coach, one for a player at Miami. But Brett McMurphy was out in Lubbock and featuring the Texas Tech football program. His story is a couple of notes from it. Joey McGuire telling Brett McMurphy that Texas Tech cannot find future games. A&M, USC, NC State, Mississippi State saying no or canceling the series. We're talking to everybody and anybody. He even brought up that if, in fact, Notre Dame and Texas, if that does go south, which I don't think it will based on what we heard from Bavacqua at Notre Dame, but they are looking for somebody around the area. Also, this feature that Texas Tech is embracing as being the villain. Walking into a country club, Red Raiders have fun, loud, and you have a bunch of guys turning around, looking and going, man, who the hell is this? And why are they in here? Now, that's been brought up before about the country club. We've used that a lot when it comes to Blue Bloods or whatever. Craig, is Texas Tech? Now, a lot of the responses to this are from people who say they don't care about Tech or Tech is irrelevant, and yet they responded to it. But are they the villain?
I guess it depends on your angle and what you define as a villain. I mean, I refer to them more as a disruptor. That's the term I've pretty consistently used with Texas Tech is, they are a disruptor of the status quo. I don't think they're in the country club either at this point. I think you've got to do a little bit more than just have a couple good years to consider yourself a member of the country club. Now, I think they're well on their way. I think they've got one foot in the door, but I think just winning maybe a couple of Big 10 or Big 12 titles back to back isn't necessarily authorized entry, and you're now hanging around with Ohio State and schools like that kicking up your feet. So I still think there's a lot more work to do as far as getting them to that point. So I would disagree with it just from that angle, but Yeah, they are very much a disruptor. They're very much leaning into being whatever it is you want to categorize them as. I mean, there's some people that look at them fondly as a disruptor because it is upsetting the apple cart and the traditional blue bloods and how stuffy all that kind of mentality can be. At the same time, rightfully, there's people on the other side that say that you haven't done anything yet. Like, you won the Big 12,
Right.
that's cute, but like, you got to do more than that. Like,
Right.
you don't just win a conference and then you're suddenly in the upper echelon of college football. So yeah, we'll see what they accomplish this year. They're heavy favorites in the Big 12. BYU gets mentioned, but beyond that, I think anybody had to put up their paycheck on one team, unless you're a BYU fan or you're just sold that Tech's going to be a little bit more vulnerable, or BYU's going to have their number. I mean, it's one of those two teams, really. And I know there's a sprinkling of others, but everybody comes back around to Texas Tech. Like, I don't know of anybody that doesn't have some version of them being in the conference title game, whereas I think there's other variations where it's not BYU, it's Arizona, or it's TCU, or it's Utah, or somebody like that. So all eyes are on them. They've created an atmosphere where they are thriving, unlike any school like them has been able to thrive in college football, because of the way they've been able to take advantage of and benefit from and utilize the rules that are in play now. They've done a masterful job with that. Everything across the board's on the upswing for them, and they are very well positioned to go knock down the door to the country club. And they've clearly very much embraced this role, however you want to define it, disruptor or villain. So yeah, they're one of the more fascinating teams, even though I know you said a lot of people say they don't care about them.
Yeah,
Well, they're going to make them care to some degree.
Yep. Some of the reaction immediately in chat is keep talking, Joey, whatever. it does. Listen, they're not to a point where there are teams in the Big 12 that damn sure know how good they are. And there's others that are kind of watching what they're doing. A villain, kind of. And then, of course, the story throughout the first 6 months of the year added to that, too. But that has calmed down dramatically since all of what happened with Brendan Sorsby.
Yeah, I mean, the Sorsby thing was a whole ordeal that definitely painted them differently in the light of some people, as opinions, I'm sure, changed what they thought one way or the other on Texas Tech. Some probably appreciated the way they stuck their neck out and defended their guy. And then we know there's a ton of people that thought that they were just only trying to benefit themselves, and that's all it was really about. Wherever you fall on that, I think that Joey McGuire did have good intentions, and I do think that he's got the world by the you-know-whats right now. It's up to them to go out there and take that next step, and that means getting back to the playoff, and that means actually scoring, and it means getting a win or two here and there. And then I think you have the conversations more realistically about the country club. But yeah, they're on the front porch. They're hanging around, and they're at the front of the line. And certainly if they go and make a bunch of noise this year, then the conversation's only going to grow much louder.
Yeah, here are a couple of responses. We got a few more stories to get to. Texas Tech versus TCU for the Big 12 title from General Ursus.
Okay.
Allen, Houston, going to surprise some people. I don't know if that would be a surprise. Now, if they were to be in the championship game, maybe some in a lot of places around the country would like to know maybe what's going on. But 10 wins last year. Clinton Moses, Texas Tech, BYU, Houston, 1, 2, and 3. I can't disagree with that myself. In fact, I said that today on Big 12 Radio with Ari and Will on TuneIn. So I get that. Good number, good note there too.
Yeah, I don't know that at this point Houston would be a surprise for anybody who watches this show or follows the Big 12. I think for the rest of the country that could probably be a bit surprising, but certainly Houston's right there in that mix. And I don't know if I unintentionally didn't mention them earlier with that same grouping, but yeah, they're right there with Arizona and Utah in that mix of teams, even BYU actually, because I think Tech's kind of out in front by themselves to a degree. So yeah, they would be in that second grouping as far as contenders and the best bets to face Tech in Arlington. And they wanted the bullseye out in Lubbock. They've got the bullseye. People are going to watch them lose. But there's still a lot of work to do. I think that's the thing that Joey needs to keep chipping away at, is there's been a lot accomplished in a short amount of time. Everything's looking great as far as the future and the building blocks and having things in place at all levels and in all areas to make you successful and put you in the upper echelon of teams. But you still got to go out and do the whole winning the games thing. And they did that pretty effectively last year. They seem like they're more confident than they were last year rolling into this season. So it's going to be a fascinating year for them. And this whole Will Hammond talk that we've been having nonstop for 7 months now, or however long it's been. Like, I can't wait to just watch him play. I can't wait to see Micah Hudson out there and how much of a difference maker he can be. I can't wait to see this fascinating group of running backs that stand to be really good behind a really good line. They're going to be salty. And so I'm just very excited now to see what that looks like and who can jump up and maybe nip them. And if nobody does, then to see how far they can take this thing and how disruptive they can be.
You got to walk before you run. You got to jog before you run. And then eventually you put 3 or 4 years together, and maybe 1 year you pop and go deeper. But it's not easy. Look at some of the schools that are struggling that have been championship pedigree. So you take advantage of what you have, and you just hope you just keep getting a little bit better, and dang, you get a win at some point that, like, everyone's like, oh, cool, damn. But you're not doing it for them. You're doing it for your program. Miami running back Mark Fletcher Jr. last year was one of the great stories during the college football playoff. He is a dude. He's a banger. And Miami was able to run the football. His mother, Linda, travels by car to all of her son's games out of dislike. She doesn't like to fly. There's a lot of people that have a phobia or are just scared to get in an airplane. 17,000 miles she drove last year, and former Canes megastar, and Hall of Fame football player Michael Irvin gave Mark Fletcher's mom a custom-wrapped RV for her to use this year during the games, whether in Miami or elsewhere. Here's a video of Irvin as outside of a townhome. He's got it wrapped. There's a picture of Fletcher flexing on the door. Now, Michael. And then you see him eventually get to the front of the car, the front of the motorhome, and he sits down with Fletcher's mother.
Hey, Mike, Mama Fletcher wants a picture.
We're going to get a picture here. This goes on for about a 3 minutes. Here we go. Michael, I'll just go about 2 or 3 seconds here.
I'm changing the place to the green maker. It's Papa, Mom. Green maker. It's Papa. It's no more play maker. This is green maker, baby. This is green maker.
There you go. Michael Irvin, 100% of just free energy. And with his mother and Mark Fletcher, he was a fantastic story. You're right. That was his father. That was a little old for him and big for Mark Fletcher Jr., but a heck of a run that Miami had with him. Literally, he was a banger for the Canes.
Yeah, I don't know how natural Michael Irvin's energy always is.
You're right.
Given his history, but no, he seems like a fun-loving dude and the type of guy, if he's on your side, you love him, and if he's not, then you can't stand him. And that's kind of how I've always found Michael Irvin to be personality-wise. But he's definitely an energizer bunny in whatever room he walks into, and that's a really cool gift. And that's something, obviously, we wouldn't have seen in years past up until here recently with NIL and everything opened up. You wouldn't have been able to flaunt something like this, much less maybe even do it because he's an alumni. So purchasing an RV for the mom of a player would have been
about that.
A really bad look. But in this era, in 2026, like, go for it. And she's got a great smile there and obviously is very excited. I feel like driving's probably faster than flying some weekends as well around this country during the fall. So maybe that's part of it as well. But, yeah, she'll be getting around in style. And I think Miami's just a really fascinating team with what they did last year and how much they bring back. And Mensa now taking over for Beck. I think that's a great addition, and really excited to watch him in that offense with the run they've been on with transfer quarterbacks. That was a really, really good get for them. And so, yeah, have Fletcher as well and so on. It's going to be a very big year for the Canes, and she'll be along for the ride. That's awesome.
Apparently, Irvin has a production company that will launch a series following Linda Fletcher's road travels.
Well, there you
however long they go. So that's a part of it too. All right. A note or two. Today, virtual meeting among leaders on the college football playoff number.
And I will say, because I wanted to make sure, but that owed to his father, who that clearly was. His father passed away.
Right.
So that's a very nice little job on the paint scheme there to pay tribute to Mark Fletcher Sr. But, yeah, when I first saw it, I was like, that's not Junior, but that's a nice little nod to his father that passed. And so well done by Michael Irvin. Really cool gift. And I just hate that you had to throw in, like, well, there's also a reality. Like, it always seems like there's always a catch, but I think for him it was also very much from the heart, not just about the show. But
She has a great personality.
But
He's
there
a hell
was
of a
like
player.
that part of it, yeah.
Urban with a production company is very, very cool. You and I, we've met him, interviewed him, phenomenal type of person. Yeah, he's had his problems in his life, but he is full throttle. All right, so a couple of notes about football it's off the field, but it's something that's there. The College Football Playoff Committee, Big Ten still wants to get to 24. The College Football Playoff meeting virtually today. Ross Dellinger with this number. The rights holder, ESPN, college football executives meeting today to further explore expansion. Leaders continue to focus on either 16 and 24 team models with growing momentum for a larger field. No decision expected. Debate, of course, will continue into the fall. Also, Dellinger with this nugget, ESPN, the rights holder for all of the college football playoff games, has been talking, and yeah, the Big Ten, they don't want 20, they want 24, so there's a disagreement there, have been talking about a possible 16-team playoff with 4 play-in games for the final 4 spots into the field, and expectations. They will talk like everything else that we do now in college sports, and talk and talk and talk and talk. I've seen the 12, the 16, or 24. I have not seen the possibility of 20, but until they decide, honestly, I'll just, whatever number they pick, we'll go with it.
You're jumping around a little bit there, so just to make it clear, yeah, the 24 team is what the Big Ten wants, and the ESPN socializing with leaders is the 16, and that's what this tweet is in response to, is the fact that the Big Ten does not want 16.
The Big Ten does not want anything less than 24.
Right,
yeah,
so
absolutely.
Just clarifying for people out there that the Big Ten stands opposed, but ESPN still having the conversations, and it says the format with 4 play-in games for those final 4 spots for 13, 14, 15, 16. I mean, that's an interesting wrinkle there, where you'd be having play-in games to determine the final 4, as opposed to the CFP committee doing that themselves. And I can see where that'd be pretty exciting. So that's getting discussed today. And yeah, I mean, the Big Ten's pretty much put their foot in the ground on what they want. I think that 16 with the 4 play-in games actually sounds pretty badass. And I like it better already on paper than a full-blown 24. I just think 24 is just a lot and a huge jump, doubling the field. So I'm all for a round number. I know 24 is an even round number, but 16 where there's no buys,
right,
and everybody just plays the same amount of games, other than the play-in teams, obviously, who would have to win to get in. But yeah, that idea, I'm all for that.
Here's the thing about 20 and play-in games. You could still have games on campuses. You can, it's kind of like a bracket. What do they do in professional sports? They have wild card rounds. Some teams get first round buys. Well, they have that now with 12. And of course, we've seen the teams who get a first round bye, they haven't done so well. Indiana was fine. But yeah, a play-in game to get into the playoff, that sounds like it's pretty cool. Plus you add, what would it be, Craig? 4 teams into the field that otherwise would not make it there. 8 teams are part of the field that would otherwise not make it there, even with 4 of them not making it past that play-in game.
Well, yeah, 4 versus the 12 format. Yeah. But yeah, you'd have 20 total that would get, I guess, invited, and I don't know how you would technically, would it be a playoff appearance if you're in the play-in game?
It'd be like an NCAA. It'd be like, it'd be like that first 4. Now it's the first, God knows how many.
But I'd rather,
you still make the playoffs.
I'd rather see that than some of the concepts about turning conference championship weekends into play-in structures, mini playoffs, 4 and 1, or no, it'd be 1 versus 2, 3, all that stuff. Like, I feel like we kind of get lost in the weeds a little bit, even though it's not extremely complicated to figure out, but this would be along those lines, just less as far as the conference itself goes. And I would definitely prefer this to a 2014 playoff. I think it would provide a lot of drama, and I like the 16 number when you boil it down, and yeah, make the teams at the very end have to fight a little bit more. And like I said, eliminate those first round buys. I don't like the first round buys.
Then yeah. And then think about teams that would have been a part of it last year. There are 5 or 6 that you look like they could have been in it, but they weren't. And then there's Big Ten Commissioner Tony Petitti on expanding the college football playoff. Listen, I know that he can be like Grinch. People can look at him that way. Had the baseball background. There's a great story today, whether you like him or not, by Scott Dockerman in theathletic.com about Tony Petitti. But this is a quote that I thought, you know what? There's some things I don't like about what he's trying to do, but look at this quote. I don't want to get too preachy, but when I was at baseball, we never had to convince anybody that keeping more teams in the race was better for everybody and the fans. We never had to do that. I feel like in this space, college athletics, college football, we're being asked to do that, where in the Major League Baseball, when he was a part of creating what they have now, no one ever complained about having extra teams in the playoffs. In college football, fighting tradition a little bit, which they've already had that go out the window, but I thought that was a pretty cool quote from him on how he looks at that.
Yeah, I don't know how cool I find it. I think he's just kind of disconnected from college football fans and why they feel that way. I think they want to preserve tradition and they want to keep it as status quo as possible. So I understand his sentiment. He is from a sport that's similar in that there are the Yankees and the Red Sox and those teams that spend big money. And you have your Ohio States and your UTs and teams like that as well. So he can view it very similarly from that lens. But, you don't quite understand, I think, where fans are coming from, and maybe you do, and you just don't think that their opinion's all that worthwhile. But yeah, I mean, that's certainly his opinion. I totally get the wanting to have more teams involved. I just think there comes a point where we can't trust you to stop getting more and more teams involved because you just want to keep unlocking doors to just create more money. And so at 24, okay, that'd be great if I thought that's actually where you were going to stop. But what do everybody out there think, Tony? We think you're going to go to 32 after that. And then we're getting more teams involved. Why is everybody pushing back on this idea?
How many fans in professional sports complained about too many teams making the playoffs? There was a time I thought hockey, NBA playoffs, like just make sure you could walk and chew gum, you could get in. But in college football, you're fighting against dozens of years. There's always been multiple teams for the most part in the playoffs and the pros. But in this particular case, you're fighting against history and tradition.
But you're also comparing apples to oranges because you have teams that play each other.
First of all, I do think it was a cool comment, his quote. You didn't think it was cool. I thought it was cool just because it gave me a little clarity on exactly what he's thinking. That's why I said that.
Okay. I mean, that's totally your right to feel how you want to feel about that. I think it's just kind of Tony Petitti not realizing these aren't the same sports. Feel however you want to about his strategy. But I think the thing that he's missing is the fact that part of the reason why there was such a clamoring for the playoff and all of that, and why you didn't hear as much pushback for fans in pro sports, is because they always had playoffs. They always had division champions that advanced to the playoff automatically. They weren't having to fight for the AFC West over the NFC East over who got another playoff spot, and then jockeying and using their power and leverage behind the scenes to try to politic their spot. It's a totally different thing in how champions have been determined. So college football fans had to bang on the door for forever to get it out of a mode where it's just a committee picking two teams or polls picking two teams. And now it's expanded and it's great. They just don't want to see it just go off the rails under the guise of, well, everybody gets to play along. So I think from that standpoint, one fan base is conditioned to playoffs and how that works, and the other fan base are still getting kind of used to it. And I think that's where you have some of this pushback is it's just a new thing. It's a different thing.
It's a trust factor. It's a trust factor on, okay, you're going to do this, but how do we believe in the system, and are you going to do it fairly? So there we are. Tony Siracusa will join us in just a moment on that and much more in college football. We have Tony coming up. Also today, Chris Carpman on Arizona State, Joseph Duarte on Houston, and George Reister, who is a part of the Unafraid show. He will join us today on the show. Today, it is Michelangelo Flores and Garrett Ross running the mothership. Craig Smoak, David Smoak. This is the Smoak Show. Petty Clinic, lowt.com. Dr. Kent Petty can help you become the high-performance man that you want to be, need to be, and used to be. Used to be means as you get older, 1 out of every 3 to 4 men have symptomatic issues of low testosterone, and maybe that's you. Sex drive not the same. Performance not the same. Sleeping habits have changed, and, well, you're just not very locked in. You're not energetic. Something's missing. And it's just not like you have a cold or maybe you're sick. It's because it's the way it is day in and day out. Contact Petty Clinic, lowt.com. Tell them I sent you. They will set you up to get your blood work. Dr. Petty will get the results, get in touch with you, and if your T level is too low, he can put you in a program so you can become the high-performance man that you want to be, need to be, and used to be at pettycliniclowt.com.
Green Texas weather calls for Ray Broker, your Lennox premier dealer. Sign up for our year-round comfort plan and keep your home the perfect temperature no matter what the forecast is. Call or visit raybroker.com now. Ray Broker, your air conditioning and heating specialist.
Make this the summer event at Allen Samuels in Waco. Get behind the wheel of an iconic new Dodge Charger RT and score $5,000 in savings. First responders and military members get an extra $500 bonus. Allen Samuels Dodge.
Come by, let's be friends.
Serving Central Texas since 1889, TFNB Your Bank for Life takes pride in being more than a bank. TFNB, we remain committed to these principles. If you value them too, come join us. TFNB, your bank for life.
Automatic Chef is your local vending, office coffee, and micro market provider, delivering outstanding service to break rooms all over Central Texas for over 50 years. Automatic Chef brings the best products to your location at the best prices. With hundreds of choices in fresh food, coffee, snacks, and drinks, make break time great again with Automatic Chef. Automatic Chef Canteen, 6900 Imperial Drive in Waco, or online at automaticchef.com.
If you need legal advice on medical malpractice or personal injury, 18-wheeler accidents, or criminal, probate, and estate planning and transactional work, including private equity acquisitions, buying and selling businesses, and employment agreements, please contact David Dumas at the David Dumas Law Firm at daviddumaslawfirm.com. This 3 o'clock hour is brought to you by QC Kinetics. Feel better, move better, live better with regenerative medicine using your body's own healing abilities for natural pain relief. No surgery, no drugs, no downtime. With locations in Dallas and Houston at QCkinetics.com. It's time for the Smoak Show on 365 Sports with Craig Smoak and David Smoak.
Tony Saracusa, managing editor, last word on college football, a part of the Football Writers Association of America, board of directors, voter, Outland Trophy, Bolitnikoff, you name it, he's a part of it in college football. And Tony joins Craig Smoak, David Smoak, the Smoak Show on 365 Sports. Tony, hey, great to have you. Thanks for your time. So I just mentioned about the discussion, and if it's not this, it's the Save or Protect College Sports Act. The college football playoff, the number that is 12, is it people don't trust the right people in charge to get it to 20 or 24? What do you think is the issue?
I think you see, first of all, thanks for having me on. It's an honor to be on with you guys. But I think part of it is you even heard a lot of coaches when we covered SEC Media Days, ACC Media Days, et cetera, talking about they don't trust the committee. They don't trust. And I get it when you watch the committee, when you listen to these Tuesday shows that they do on ESPN. I'm always on the conference call with the head of the committee afterwards, asking questions along with other media members. And you wonder if they really get it from week to week. There seems to be an inconsistency each week, almost as if trying to rationalize what they did this week versus the previous week or what they may do the following week. There's a lot of not trust in the committee. Now, does expanding that make it any better? To some it does, because you're guaranteed a few more spots, no matter what. If you're the SEC, you're going to get your third and fourth place teams in, or if you're the Big Ten or whatever the case may be. So to them, the more that they get in, the less they have to rely on the committee. And the committee has not done a good job over the past 2 to 3 years with explaining its rationale. And I'm sure you guys have seen this because I see you all over social media as well. They post videos or pictures of here's the committee on Saturday watching the games. Man, they're sitting there in some hotel suite or some hotel ballroom, sitting in a Barca lounger and there's 1 or 2 TVs there. Come on, man. I'm not on the committee, and I've got 3 TVs in my office in here, plus my computer monitor, so that I've got, 5, 6, 7, 8 games on at a time. Most of the people on the Football Writers All-American Committee, we record 14, 15, 16 games every weekend to go back and watch things for some of the awards that we're doing. So there's just not a lot of faith in the committee.
What do you think about when you think about the 2026 college football season? Like, what's the first thing that comes to mind for you? Is it Lane and LSU? Is it Texas and Arch? Is it battle lines being drawn between the Big Ten and the SEC? Like, where does your head go as far as the most interesting topic right now?
Get ready for the Big Ten to win a 4th championship.
Okay.
That's where my head goes. And I know the Football Writers Association Super 16 committee picked Ohio State. I disagree with that. I actually think it's Oregon. And that's because of a high level of faith in Dante Moore running this offense for a second consecutive year. The guy could have been a first-round pick if he had gone to the NFL. You look at him throwing for over 3,500 yards last year. His touchdown to interception ratio was about 3-1. And that offense averaged 38 points per game. I like Ohio State. I think Ohio State's offense is very good. When you've got Bo Jackson at running back, you've got Jeremiah Smith. I like Julian Sain, but the defense lost a lot. And I think it really hits at the depth that they're looking at this year. That's the first thing that comes to mind. Watching Texas Tech and what they do at quarterback is a storyline for me. The entire summer with the Brendan Sorsby debacle, and Texas Tech wanting to stand behind him, and Cody Campbell's involvement and lawsuits from the Big 12 and things like that. I want to see how they recover as a program at quarterback. I got to tell you, you brought up Lane and LSU and Ole Miss, and yeah, they play each other, and it's in Oxford. I think it's the 3rd week of the season. It's entertaining, but Lane's entertainment value with me runs pretty thin these days. It was kind of I'm sorry, man, it was kind of a jerk move the way he did it, the way he left. And he's going to get plastered by the fans when he goes to Oxford. It's to be expected. LSU's got a good team, but I don't know if they're good enough to compete for the top spot in the SEC. So his storyline has limited entertainment value for me.
Fair enough. And yeah, I think you're definitely not alone in that opinion either. But I asked that kind of a general question to a lot of the people we have on, especially this time, because there's just so much fascinating stuff that we're in store for, and like such a busy, crazy off season. When it comes to Tech in particular, they're a disruptor. That's what I like to call them. Some people refer to them as the villain. I think they've still got work to do, more things to win to be like the big grand villain in the whole scheme of things. But do you view them as a national title contender? Do you view them as a greater threat? Or are you one of those people that kind of views how last season ended and you're like, I'm not fully buying into this just yet?
No, you know what? I think your phrasing of what they are, man, I hadn't heard that before, a disruptor, but I think that's spot on. Look, they're in the Big 12, and it's not a particularly strong Big 12 outside of BYU and them. And you're going to look and see that they can win the Big 12. They're going to get a playoff spot. Are they going to be competitive in the playoff? I think they'll be in the playoff. I don't think that they will be contending for the national championship. You look at the other teams that we've already talked about, the Georgias, the Ohio States, the Oregons, even Notre Dame. And I don't see Texas Tech playing at that level, especially going into the season and having to kind of project ahead. And they've got the question marks at quarterback. It's a different team if they've got Brendan Sorsby at quarterback. It's a different offense, but I don't see them being a national championship contender. So your phrase disruptor, I think, is spot on.
Is there somebody else that you think is being slept on that is I don't know. That depends on what poll or what you have. You own. You have the Football Writers Super 16 poll, which is fantastic.
Sure.
Is there someone though that you think is being slept on that would be outside perhaps the top 10 or so?
I think the Super 16 put Miami at 7. And I actually think that Miami's got a chance of being back in the championship game, in the national championship game again this year. Look, they're going to, at some point during the season, they're going to lose a game they shouldn't lose. That's what happens when you have Mario Cristobal as the coach. I used to catch a lot of flack, even when I was on the West Coast covering the Pac-12. And he would do that at Oregon as well. I used to call him Coach Instacart. Because, there's that old coach's phrase, if you want me to cook the dinner, you got to let me do the grocery shopping.
Mm-hmm.
Mario's a great recruiter. But at Oregon, at Miami, he historically loses a game that he shouldn't lose. So I randomly called him that one time. And by the way, he does know about it because he asked me at ACC Media Days this year if based on how they did last year, he was still Coach Instacart. And I said, no, not, I can't really call you that now. But the point was, I let him do the shopping, but stay out of the kitchen.
Yeah.
So that's how we got that nickname. But look, they played great. I think Darian Mensah is an upgrade at quarterback for them. I think that they've got a lot of talent. They've got Malachi Toney. I think that the defensive line is going to be really, really good with a lot of the interior part of that defensive line back from last year, including some of the depth. I think Miami's got a chance I think Miami is the odds-on favorite to win the ACC. I know the ACC media voted them that way. I put them as my number one when we did the vote. I think they've got a chance of being back in the championship game.
It feels like with the ACC, it's kind of Miami and the rest of the field, and SMU, a Louisville, those teams kind of get mentioned. It also just feels like, man, do you feel like there's just until like the next 3 years hits and this realignment goes whatever direction it's going to go, that the ACC is just kind of in this flux? Because as excited as you can get for a Miami, you're like, are they leaving tomorrow or are they leaving? Like, it just feels like they're in a weird middle state right now as a conference.
And I think they put themselves there. I think that that's a good point. I think they did it to themselves. Look, not to be braggadocious, but our site was the one outlet that was in all 3 courtrooms last year in Tallahassee, in Pickens, South Carolina, and in Charlotte to cover the lawsuits with Florida State and Clemson and the ACC. And of course, as you do in lawsuits, you come out with bold statements and a lot of bravado, and Jim Phillips did that. But it was maybe 6-7 months into the lawsuits, they caved pretty quickly. And let's be clear, the ACC caved. When I got to Charlotte 4.5 years ago from the West Coast, people talked about the grant of rights that the ACC had with its teams and how it went through 2036. And they talked about this. The original copy was under lock and key. It took me like a week to get a copy of it, but they talked about it like it was Moses coming down the mountain with the tablets. I sent it to some attorney friends of mine who work as our counsel for Last Word when we need legal advice on storylines. And they were like, this thing's full of holes. It's 2.5 pages of holes. And so the lawsuits were inevitable. The ACC caved pretty quickly when it came to, you can leave. You really can't leave until 2030. But the issue was leaving with your broadcast rights in your back pocket. And the ACC gave it to them 6 years earlier than they would have otherwise had if they had stood their ground. So I think the ACC knows it's in a tenuous spot right now.
Tony, where were you last year leading into the year with Indiana at least getting in the playoffs? Some people thought they shouldn't have been in it. No, but they weren't going anywhere. Where were you with them before the year started? Because I think a lot of people still didn't quite believe in them. Your thoughts?
No, you can add me to that list of people who did not believe in them. It was like Indiana. Look, I'm old enough to remember the days when Indiana was habitually a last place team in the Big Ten, back when there were actually 10 schools in the Big Ten. And to the thought of Indiana being a football power was lunacy. Now, you could see that Kurt Signetti had made this massive change, especially using the transfer portal, getting a bunch of his guys from James Madison. But you never know how you're going to use that portal or how that portal is going to work for you when you're overhauling a program, right? I mean, it worked okay for Dion in year one, worked great in year two, not so much after that, because he didn't have the star level talent anymore last year. So it's you never know how you're going to integrate those new players with the players that you're keeping from the old roster and how that blend kind of works. I think he made his point. I think Signetti made his point pretty well.
Yeah, they sure were. I thought they would be good, but I didn't expect. I mean, no one.
No.
You can't even expect this year even the best team to go 16-0. Or
Goodness, no. And there is no way to look at Fernando Mendoza coming from Cal, which, had years of just brutal, good defenses, but brutal offenses. And there was no way for anyone to realistically say, oh, they got Fernando Mendoza, so they're going to be competing for the championship. It just wasn't reality.
No, it was unbelievable and incredible to watch that. I don't know that we'll ever see anything like that again. Because even if there's a first-time national champion that pops up, well, now Indiana's already done it, but it'll still be impressive if somebody does it. But it's just not that much of a jump from basically irrelevance or the team you think of when you think who's the worst team in the country, and it's them, to the best team in the country, undefeated and beating blue blood after blue blood. It's absolutely crazy. I was curious, as somebody who was on the West Coast, the new Pac-12. I mean, it's not what it was. We don't have to pretend that it is, but Oregon State and Washington State got a couple years to build things back up, and this new Pac-12 and just football on the West Coast. What do you think about it heading into this year?
You're right. It's not the same. It's not even close to the same, and we shouldn't pretend that it is. But I'm happy that there's viable West Coast football again. It's funny because there are a lot of state you see a lot of, you can go up and down the lineup of the school state, with a lot of them not actually being states. Fresno is not a state. San Diego is not a state, but being state-run schools. But look, and there's going to be some decent football again. Fresno State is a decent program. San Diego State, great coaching down there, and it's a decent program with great facilities. So look, as someone who moved to the East Coast and was used to watching my college football from 9 a.m. on the West Coast when it was midday everywhere else, and watching until your eyes are bleeding at midnight, West Coast time. Hey, I'm happy to be up at 2 a.m, on the East Coast, still watching some West Coast football. When I'm out covering games live and, I get home at whatever late hour, turn on the TV and to have some viable West Coast football again, I'm happy for it. I'm all about it.
Last thing, Tony, thanks for your time.
I
saw your note. Scott Schneider, we've had Scott on. He's an attorney. In this day and age, you have to have analysts every day. You put up, this is the closest I have seen to a CBA structure yet in college athletics. Lots of people just throw the phrase out there without any concept of how it works or doesn't. And it often involves unionization, even though labor unions are not built to handle transient members who are at anywhere 1 to 4 years. Is this enticing? Is it tempting? Is this still just a flirtation?
I think it's still just a flirtation for now. And the one thing that I would say that makes it that is, think back to the NFLPA. When the NFL got a union, which was being, sold and bought by everybody in the NFL, it took 4 years from concept to execution. So the people who are the players who are talking about unionization now, they're not even going to be here if and when it comes to reality. And I think during the Senate bill and the negotiations, we heard so much about you have to have a CBA. And a lot of my media brethren threw, well, you got to get to a CBA. Okay, that's fine. But what Mr. Schneider did, and I've got a lot of respect for all the work he did in putting this kind of stuff out there on social media, is, okay, but you can't just do it the regular way. Here's what it's got to look like, because some of these guys are at public schools, some of these guys are at private schools. No one talks about the fact that if they unionize, does the employee status come into play? Because there are 7 states in the country that do not allow collective bargaining for public employees. So if, just to put it in current context, if Arch Manning becomes an employee of the University of Texas, he can't collectively bargain because it's not allowed in the state of Texas. So it's more complicated than people who are just, and again, my media brethren, just throwing it out there as you're going to have to get to a CBA at some point. It's way more complicated than that.
Tony, thank you, buddy. Appreciate your time. The Super 16 poll, I wish you would get more publicity. I know a lot of people look at the coaches because
Right.
it's tight. It's not as many teams.
Correct.
I like it. I'm a proud member of the Football Writers Association of America.
I know you are.
And good to have you on the show, my friend. Thank you.
All right, guys, be well.
Tony Saracusa with us on 365 Sports with a lot of different notes on so many different topics, including the ones we've been talking about, Craig, today during our headline segment. So appreciate his time. All right, when we come back, Bruce Feldman, theathletic.com, did his release of the 101 freaks in college football. We're going to focus on just a handful of them. We'll have George Wrightster coming up, the Unafraid show. He'll join us at 4:25, and then also Chris Carpman on Arizona State at 4:40 or so. Thank you for your time. Please subscribe to the channel if you have not. Spread the word. And this is 365 Sports. So Friday evening on my way to Dallas, I talked with one of you, a viewer, about your health issues. Talked about some other things about this, the show and content and what we do. Appreciated that. But someone who's had 2 back surgeries, 2. And he was asking me about what I have been through, and I'm feeling better because you know that. I've been telling you that for months about my treatment that I get from QC Kinetics with platelets, plasma, stem cells, and where I was a year ago at this time, I can't even explain the difference. Ran a couple of miles earlier today, feel good about it. Well, he's had 2 back surgeries and still can't get through some of the same pain. He was asking me about QC Kinetics. He's in the Houston area and is going to get in touch with them. I also reached out to QC Kinetics to give them a heads up about you. And I will do that for any of you if you, in fact, have pain that is not getting better, pain that is not going away. And believe me, I can understand it. Every day for 4.5 to 5 years, I woke up, there it is, a tugging, pull, and sometimes enough to where I just I can't do this. It's not that I couldn't get out of bed. I didn't always want to get out of bed because, and it wasn't because of a hangover. It was because of the pain in my right hip. And so QC Kinetics can help you with that. Your natural biologics, why not? And he's had surgeries. But if someone else you're talking to, if you have ankle, elbow, whatever it is, neck, back, hip, knee, and now they're starting to discuss a procedure or surgery, before you do that, go contact QC Kinetics. Here are the numbers with multiple locations, 4 of them in Dallas and Houston, 972-972-8610. That's more than 4 overall, by the way. 713-913-5285. This works. It was last week when I had a college basketball coach tell me that his upper neck, his cervical area, is just never getting better, no matter the procedures he's had. He was going to get in touch with QC Kinetics. I love sharing the story because I love the way I feel compared to how I did because I was miserable. QC Kinetics, using your natural biologics to make you feel better, help you feel better, and not for the short term, but every day at QCkinetics.com.
It's in the major leagues for 24 years. And let me tell you, I can feel it in my joints. Shoulders, elbows, and knees. Trust me, pain doesn't retire when you do. I tried everything to get rid of the pain. Nothing worked until QC Kinetics.
Baseball legend Roger Clemens and other patients are getting lasting relief with QC Kinetics regenerative treatments. No surgery.
I trust QC Kinetics. You should too. Let's commit to getting rid of all the pain.
Schedule your free consultation today. QC Kinetics. Better starts here.
With over 25 years of excellence in IT, Carrion Solutions is your trusted technology partner. From managed IT services to cutting-edge cybersecurity, our expert team delivers tailored solutions that drive success. Our portfolio includes products such as Veeam, Bitdefender, Microsoft, Cisco, and Fortinet. Call David Carrion and his team of experts. Call 888-522-2221 or visit us at carrionsolutions.com.
Established in 2007 and independently owned, Alliance Bank Central Texas is committed to helping families and businesses meet their financial goals. From their tellers to their board of directors, they know the importance of superior service and competitive products. Customers have confidence knowing that their financial needs are in good hands. It's your bank, Alliance Bank Central Texas, with 2 Waco locations, 4721 Bosque Boulevard and 191 Archway Drive on Highway 84, and at alliancebanktexas.com. Member FDIC, an equal housing lender.
Hello, I'm Camille Johnson with Camille Johnson Realtors. We specialize in selling residential real estate agent all across our community, and we love serving all types of families. We have been in business at Camille Johnson Realtors for almost 9 years, and I have been a residential real estate agent for almost 40 years. And we love our partnership with 365. So thank you for partnering with me, and thank you so much to all of my clients who have made our company a success.
Celebrate American value and American quality during the Red, White, and Blue sales event at Richard Car. You want a Richard Car GMC? Get your Sierra now and save $13,000 or more on every truck in stock with trade-in. Save $14,000 on a 2026 GMC Sierra SLE Crew Cab. Or save $13,500 on a 2026 GMC Sierra Pro, now under $29,000. Drive American quality and get American savings during the Red, White, and Blue sales event at Richard Car.
Richard Car, they have the truck for you.
Pepperoni Magnifico. Pepperoni Magnifico. Marco's Pepperoni Magnifico. Classic and crispy cut pepperoni, 3 melty cheeses, all on our fresh made dough. And starting at just $12.99 for a large, it's no wonder Marco's was named America's favorite pizza chain.
This 4 o'clock hour is brought to you by Stonewood Dental, your one-stop shop for your dental needs, specializing in teeth cleaning, fillings, crowns, sealants, root canals, IV sedation, extractions, implants, bridges, dentures, full mouth restorations, and bioaesthetic dentistry. Our priority is your comfort from the moment you walk through the front door. Stonewood Dental in Robinson, Texas. It's time for the Smoak Show on 365 Sports with Craig Smoak and David Smoak.
Bruce Feldman, theathletic.com, started a list about 25 years ago called The Freaks. The Freaks list at college football. There have been some amazing stories. We're about to show you one that just makes me get, ugh. But Craig Smoak, the list came out. South Carolina wide receiver Nick Harbor. He was the first to ever go back-to-back as the number 1 freak for Bruce Feldman. And then it took Jeremiah Smith, the generational talent, to bump him. And now Harbor, the wide receiver from South Carolina, is back as the number 1 freak in America.
Yeah, I mean, we must be getting close to the season, getting the freaks list. That's definitely a sign that we're right on the precipice of all hell breaking loose in the best type of way. So glad to see that come across the timeline. And it's a fun thing to kind of deep dive through and learn about some guys that aren't necessarily always the biggest name players, but are freak athletes. So a lot of them are recognizable, but there's definitely some learning to do about various individuals that you can't possibly know, no matter how hardcore college football fan you are, about every dude on this list and what their measurements are and their weightlifting standout moments and things like that. That's why this is always a really cool thing to learn a lot.
Sorry about that. So some of the names, Jeremiah Smith is at number 2. You have Colin Simmons, the bad defensive edge rusher from Texas. He's at number 10 down the road. Then you get to this guy here. His name is Andrew Miller, fullback from Harding University. He and his, I think it's his cousin or his brother, they just go jumping into the most nasty, snake-infested water they can find and just start bringing out these snakes. And one, he has to live near some sort of swamp or whatever to be able to do this. I don't know how many of the ones that he has in either hand are poisonous. I can't imagine they are, but they still could strike you and bite the hell out of you and hurt you. And this right here, he gets featured because he's psycho.
Yeah. Well, first of all, Harding University is in Arkansas, so I don't think he has to probably look too far to find snakes. And second of all, you are really dramatic when it comes to snakes. Like, yeah, of course they're not poisonous. He wouldn't be holding them if they were, but I don't think, I know you're deathly afraid of them. I don't think it's nearly as big of a deal as you make it out to be sometimes with the snakes. I mean, yeah, what he's doing there, I wouldn't go and do. And I certainly wouldn't feel confident enough that every one that I pick up is absolutely not poisonous. But I also didn't grow up clearly like he grew up to make this a hobby of mine. So I'm not afraid of snakes. Like I'm not trying to go pick up every one that I see. And I definitely try to be smart about knowing what's what. And is that a coral snake or is that a garden snake or, whatever the differences are. But yeah, this is pretty crazy. I don't know how much of an athletic freak it makes him, but it definitely makes him a freak of some kind. And good for Harding University to have a rep on the freaks list. But yeah, the snake wrangler, I'm not surprised that's where you eventually found yourself going, because you just,
I couldn't
as much as you say you don't like them, you bring it up all the time. All the time.
Look at the picture though. Some of them look like they could be boa moccasins. Some of them look like they could be rattlesnakes. And no, I know there's not a boa moccasin. 231 pound defensive lineman is his teammate Caleb Walker. This guy is a Harlan Hill Award finalist, 6'1", 225 pound, ran for 2,000 yards and 28 touchdowns. And sometimes he and his cousins will just jump in snake-infested waters and go to work. He catches fish with his bare hands. We've seen that. And it's unbelievable, truly a freak, from Harding Sports Information Director Scott Good. I understand, Craig, that none of them would be poisonous, but my God, what if you make the mistake and one of them is? And I am infatuated with him. I am. So when I saw that picture, I said, this would be who we feature, because, damn it, I made the decision of all of the 101 names that are on that list.
Yeah, I mean, I guess you don't always know. That's why you got to make sure you know what you're doing. You just don't randomly go jump into a pond in Arkansas and start grabbing at stuff. So, yeah, I'm sure that's part of his upbringing, was learning the differences. And I don't know how he managed to wrangle all those simultaneously. Clearly a talent for that hobby. And, yeah, cool for Harding to have a player on this list. I mean, cool for it to be about more than just the snakes as well. I mean, you kind of touched on it there, but Bruce dives into their triple option flex bone offense that he's a part of, and talks about some of the other guys on his team. He brought up Caleb Walker, a 230-pound D lineman who runs a 4.4, has a 40.5-inch vert. His running back teammate Ben Bohm, 4.36 40-inch vert. Yeah, I mean, they've got some dudes, some athletes on that Harding roster, obviously, and this guy's just the snake catcher. So I guess he got not only the nod for that, but also second for the Harlan Hill Award, 2,000 plus yards, 28 TDs, 4.4, 4.40, a bunch of other great measurables. So yeah, the dude's a great athlete, also kind of a crazy man, and they've got a pretty nasty offensive attack there at Harding University. So, yeah, cool. That's what this list is good for, is highlighting the athleticism, but also bringing out some other fun anecdotes as well. And this certainly applies to both categories.
Let me just pick one. Caden Fegan from Illinois at tight end. 260-pound tight end who can bench press 415 pounds. Also hit 21 miles an hour on the GPS during the offseason. He also will play a little bit of running back, but also, of course, as I mentioned, plays the tight end position. Let's go to another one down the list. Just another name. I'll just pick one out. Mikelon Thomas from Virginia, transferred to Virginia before last year, broke his foot 2 days into camp, has another excellent offseason, showcasing some impressive strength and athleticism. 4.38 shuttle time for a big man, 6'2", 320 pounds. I see Auburn's Byron Brown, the quarterback. He's on the list. I didn't realize how big he was. I watched him play, but I didn't realize 6'3", 235 pounds. Let's see here. Shadre Hurst, Houston offensive lineman, Ben Roberts, linebacker from Texas Tech, a couple of guys. Justin Bowick of Oklahoma State, wide receiver. So those are some of the names, also including Oklahoma quarterback John Mateer at number 69. There we go, Bruce Feldman and theathletic.com. I've invited him to come on this week to kind of just go over some of the more intriguing stories from his perspective. I would think that this has to be sports information directors' dream for them to send in stories about players that could be star players. We've mentioned them, but also the unknown players as well.
Yeah, I think that's part of the charm of that job is to not just focus on one story or two stories, but to have a plethora of stories and interest, and to highlight your people and to let their stories be heard. So it's a lot of storytelling in the SID department, and this is a great tool for Bruce to kind of get down into some other interesting things that aren't just basically all the athleticism parts of a guy's tale, and instead some of the background, like the snake wrangling or whatever other number of anecdotes that are a part of this list. It's kind of a hard thing to break down and like compare, because it's just very unique in what it is and what it highlights. And I guess it's also very popular, which is why Bruce points out that this was not a very long list, and now you look at it and it's like 101 players on this thing. So yeah, clearly the SIDs loved it because he got all sorts of nominations, and it covers everybody from Georgia to Harding University and all points in between, and he does a great job with it and a great job telling all of these stories. So I think it's a great sign that the season's on the horizon. It's also just a fun read every year, and like I mentioned at the beginning, you learn a lot about a lot of guys that aren't just your typical preseason magazine type of write-ups, that are all good and valuable as well. But this is its own unique thing. And so glad Bruce has leaned into it. He was smart to do that.
All right, when we come back, George Reister, who is now a part of On 3, but he has the show that he does, the Unafraid Show. He's going to join us. Rez, if you don't mind, one other quick note in college athletics. Do you have the Illinois video board that I believe it was in base camp? I was going to have it on the rundown. I wanted to show this because it's just kind of another unique story when it comes to college football. So Illinois has they now officially have the largest video board in all of college football, 6,000 square feet. Craig, they took over what was the largest video board from Auburn. And Purdue was, believe it or not, third, Oregon, Michigan at 4 and 5.
The last time I paid attention to who had the largest video board was when Texas had it like 20 years ago, and I don't think paid attention to it a moment since. I remember when they got the Godzillatron, or however it was referred to, and it was a big deal at the time, and it sounds like they've been topped and topped and topped and topped.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah, I mean, that's cool. A big video board definitely makes a difference. I don't know, you get to the point where it's like irrelevant that it's the now new record size, but that's a nice little bragging right for Illinois, at least until somebody makes it bigger. And at some point, you're going to have to think that it can't get much bigger than what we're looking at right here. But yeah, that'll be a mammoth, and there will not be a bad seat in the house as far as being able to see replays and some of the action, I'm sure. So yeah, I mean, that's just one of those things that over the last couple decades has been a recurring upgrade for every facility facelift that gets done is the big video board, and having it HD or 4K or whatever it is now, and all the specifications. So yeah, that's a monster for Illinois fans, and that's definitely going to stand out on game day.
Top 10, and then we break. Illinois, Auburn, Purdue, Oregon, Michigan, Wisconsin, Utah, number 7. Oklahoma, 8, Mississippi State, 9, and Texas A&M with number 10 as far as the largest video boards in college football.
So like I said, I remember when Godzillatron debuted in Austin, and what a thing that was, and how much talk that generated, and they're not even top 10 anymore, which I'm not surprised by because it's been a long time. I'm sure they'll get back on the top of that list at some point or another. Maybe there's already plans for that. I don't know. But yeah, I do remember that being the start of the fad, really. And everybody continuing to upgrade to the point where, you've got just random collection of teams there in the top 10. But good for Illinois. A lot of investment, some excitement around that program right now. Not the first or probably first handful of teams you think about in the Big Ten, but they've done pretty okay for themselves as of late, and have definitely had their moments. And now those moments will be on the biggest screen in college football in 2026. So cool.
All right, George Reister's next. We appreciate your time. Rez and Garrett running the mothership. It's a lot here in the studio, and it's the four of us today, and it's nice and quiet, and we have enjoyed the peace and quiet. This is 365 Sports. Alan Samuels, Dodge, Chrysler, Jeep, Ram, Fiat. Right now, the 2025, this is a part of their pre-owned inventory. 2025 Subaru Legacy Sport, only 13,000 miles, and $29,995. Their pre-owned inventory is loaded. I bought my car that I currently have back in 2020, and here we are 6+ years later. Also, if you want something else, for example, 250 years of great experience, what Ram trucks bring to the table. How about the Jeep SUVs, 2026 Jeep Wrangler, or 2026 Ram 1500, both come with exclusive patriotic styling, commemorative details on the vehicle. Test drive the Black Widow package, a brand new Black Widow package, 2026 Jeep Wrangler, lifted on 37-inch tires, premium leather, and with a winch, and one of the finest rides you'll ever see. Ted Teague, general manager and CEO. David Gray runs the sales department with a bunch of great men and women that are showing you what you want, giving you the opportunity to test drive what you need, and then helping you with buying the truck, the vehicle, what you need, or SUV along the way. Alan Samuels, Dodge, Chrysler, Jeep, Ram, Fiat, Loop 340 east of 84 in Waco.
90 years ago, Bert Cogen Ford made a commitment, not just to sell Fords, but to serve Waco. What began in 1936 wasn't a transaction, it was a partnership built through hard work, quality, and integrity, mile by mile. For over 4 generations, Bert Cogen has been driven by Waco. Thank you for the road we've traveled together and the miles that lay ahead.
Petty Clinic Men's Healthcare in Woodway is now proud to offer you men an exceptional weight management body sculpting product called semaglutide, also known as Ozempic or Wegovy. Semaglutide is an FDA-approved weight management medication. Once-a-week injections of this powerful medication offers an average body fat weight loss of 20% within the first year of treatment. In addition to body sculpting, semaglutide also normalizes blood sugars and has the clinical research proof of reducing blood pressure, cholesterol, stroke, and heart attack risk. If you're like most men and you have stubborn fat that will just not respond to typical diets and exercise, then help is finally here. Semaglutide. Affordable, highly effective. Google search Petty Clinic Waco and reach out to the Petty Clinic team today for a free consultation with Dr. Petty to see if semaglutide is right for you. Go to pettycliniclowt.com.
Whatever it is you wrangle, whatever seeds you sow, no matter what you nurture or what you choose to grow, at Texas Farm Bureau Insurance, we're proud to protect all Texans.
When you play hard, sometimes you fall hard. Sports injuries require special treatment. At Southwest Sports Medicine and Orthopedics, our team of expert doctors provides athletes and active adults with comprehensive sports medicine care, diagnostics. Whether you're in high school, college, or beyond, we'll help you get back on the field. Call on the team physicians for Baylor Athletics. Call Southwest Sports Medicine and Orthopedics.
I pitched in the major leagues for 24 years. And let me tell you, I can feel it in my joints. Shoulders, elbows, and knees. Trust me, Pain doesn't retire when you do. I tried everything to get rid of the pain. Nothing worked until QC Kinetics.
Baseball legend Roger Clemens and other patients are getting lasting relief with QC Kinetics regenerative treatments. No surgery.
I trust QC Kinetics. You should too. Let's commit to getting rid of all the pain.
Schedule your free consultation today. QC Kinetics. Better starts here.
At Tarleton State University, we believe your education should fit your journey. Whether you're starting college or advancing your career, Tarleton State opens the door to what's next. A student-focused education is never far away. Don't change your life to earn a degree. Earn a degree to change your life. Because wherever life takes you, Tarleton State goes with you. Become a Texan today. Visit tarleton.edu.
From the TFNB Your Bank for Life studio. Now, it's time for the Smoke Show. Presented by Texas Farm Bureau Insurance. We are Texas Farm Bureau Insurance, your insurance provider built by Texans for Texans. And we've been protecting families in our great state since 1952. TFNB, your bank for life, serving Central Texans since 1889. It's time for the Smoke Show on 365 Sports with David Smoak and Craig Smoak.
All right, waiting on George Reister, we will have Chris Cartman on Arizona State. Saw where Boley, the quarterback, was getting a lot of the first-team snaps today. The transfer from Kentucky with Levitt now at LSU, so we'll have him just around the corner. So we'll wait to see if we get George on the show. I just was randomly going through. There's this one Twitter feed. It has a lot of historical. So, Rez, if you don't mind, put up the one that says the scoring explosion. This is the schedule of 1983 Nebraska. They're the ones that can be blamed for creating the monster of the University of Miami and the U, because they were unbeaten, untested for the most part, and then Miami beat them with Bernie Kosar and company with Howard Snellenberger. I bring this up, the schedule, for what reason? Look at the schedule. They're in the Big Eight. Look at the first 5 games of the year, Craig. Penn State, Wyoming, Minnesota, UCLA, Syracuse. That's a favorable schedule with 3 of the 5. But at Penn State, that was that New Jersey, that kickoff classic at the Meadowlands. 5 non-conference games. And now we're trying to figure out if they should play 3. Should they play Power 4 schools, which that wasn't even a term back in the day. So I just wanted to bring that up. You could take any other team that was a part of the Pac-12 or the Big 8 or whatever, and 5. They had to fill 5 non-conference games during that time.
What conference was this?
Big 8.
Oh, well, there goes your answer. You had 7 teams to play.
Yep.
You had 7 teams to play. You didn't have 17 teams to play like you do in the Big Ten, or at least it kind of feels like everybody's got that amount, even though it's 16 in some, and then you got your 18 and your I guess you're 17 technically with Notre Dame, and yeah, I mean, having these large supersized conferences prevents anything like this from being realistic or happening again, unfortunately. But that's a pretty salty non-con. I mean, definitely not chasing the paycheck state and paycheck tech and paycheck whoever else that some of these schools are scheduling, and everybody's got their money games, but everybody, for the most part, outside of like Indiana and maybe a couple of others, don't really have any big banger names on their schedule, and Nebraska had plenty right here. So yeah, definitely a different time, different era, and different conference makeup, I think, is the most notable thing. 8 teams versus what you're in currently with the Big Ten, which is more than double that.
Yeah, I'm going to just look up for kicks and grins UCLA 1983 football schedule and just see, because they were a part of a different conference at the time. And of course, that was before there was some expansion, but not much. UCLA played non-conference games against Georgia on the road. Arizona State was a part of the conference. Then they had Nebraska, BYU, and then Illinois in a bowl game. So the Pac-10 had 10. So they, of course, had more conference games. But imagine how simple it was, or not, when the Big 8 had 8 and they had to fill 5 of those with non-conference games. And those teams back then, they played people. I mean, all of them did. Even if you didn't, everybody played pretty damn good non-conference schedules back, of course, a different era in college football.
Yeah, I just think it's just a totally different time period than what we're dealing with now, and I think there's a lot less programs that are trying to find games, and a lot less motivation to move up and down and all around to do what some of these teams are doing, and just the money involved and the trying to position yourself is so much different than what it was when two teams made the national championship game, or maybe they didn't even play each other. There was two teams playing for national titles in separate bowl games, but that's all there was to it. So you'd have a split champion, or you had your normal champion. It wasn't a 12-team playoff to determine it. It wasn't 16 to 18 team size conferences. It wasn't all that jazz. So
Right.
yeah, I mean, it's night and day. It's not the same sport, but in name only. And the historical part of it's all intertwined. But yeah, you're playing a much different ball game now.
1983 Oklahoma, then we go to George. Non-conference, Stanford on the road, Ohio State, Tulsa, and then a non-conference game, of course, was the Red River Shootout with Oklahoma and Texas, and then they had the games in the Big 8. We are now joined by George Reister, the Unafraid Show, and now a part of the On3 Network. He joins us on 365 Sports. George, with Craig and David Smoak, thank you for your time. Congratulations, getting locked into a network, and how much fun will that be for you?
Man, I'm excited. I couldn't be any more excited for this partnership with On3, because On3 is about trust. It is about love of college football, love of the game, love of the sport, and that's exactly where I am. And it's cool because I get a chance. It's going to allow me the opportunity to connect with fans just that much more on message boards and everything else. So that part I'm very excited about, because at its true core, even though I was an NFL player, college football player, I am a college football fan. So that's the part that I'm super excited about.
George, where does your mind go? I've been kind of asking everybody this because there's a million different answers depending on who you are. Where does your mind go immediately as far as interest level when it comes to this year? Is it one of the coaching changes? Is it the Big Ten versus SEC? Where are you?
It's got to be the Big Ten versus the SEC, particularly because we have two very, very big matchups to start the season, and then one ACC SEC matchup, which are very interesting because you got Oklahoma heading up to Ann Arbor to play against Michigan, and Michigan's a 3.5-point favorite right now. So then that makes you wonder, okay, how is this whole SEC, we're the best conference, this propaganda that's still going on? How does that work if Michigan, who's not even expected to win the Big Ten, beats Oklahoma, who's expected to contend for the SEC and maybe is a national championship threat? And then you got Ohio State going down to Texas. If they lose both of those games, now you're in a position where the argument is going to be, why not have 5 Big Ten teams in or 4 Big Ten teams in and only 3 SEC teams at that point in time? And especially if Clemson, if they find a way to upset LSU, those are the things that I'm excited about, particularly at the beginning of the season, the chaos that could ensue for the rest of the year, which is what makes college football so great.
Do you think that there's another Indiana percolating or on the horizon, or can we actually say that? Because I don't think anyone really thought we'd see what we saw from Indiana, although we expected them to be pretty good.
Okay. As soon as something in life, an event happens that had never happened, that unlocks the possibility. And when people actually believe that something can happen, it changes everything. Because until last year, there had never been a team to win a national championship that didn't have a blue chip ratio over 50%. So that means the amount of your roster, that the percentage of your roster that is 4- and 5-star prospects. And now it is important to reevaluate those things, because Indiana had an 8% blue chip ratio. But if you think about it and you go back and look, D'Angelo Pons, if you go back, he would have been a 4-star prospect if you were re-ranking him. Fernando Mendoza would have been a 5-star prospect. Elijah Surratt would have been a 4 or 5-star prospect. Daly and some of these other guys would have been much higher ranked than they are. So I do think that when it comes to transfer portal rankings and it comes to development and age, that those things have to be factored into everything a lot more. So when I look at this particular season and I'm looking at teams who could come up and shock somebody as a national title contender, I think that you got to look at a team like Washington. Washington could be a team that just jumps up and just surprises everybody. So could a team like USC, BYU, Michigan, Penn State. Any of those types of teams are the ones that you really have to be on the lookout for as of who could be, quote unquote, the next Indiana or even a Utah.
George, you're an Oregon guy. They're getting a lot of love in the preseason, and they're one of the handful of like winningest teams to not have a national title. They've been knocking on the door now for a couple of decades of being very, very close. Do you feel like this could be the year? Like, what kind of a sense is not only an analyst but also an Oregon guy have on, like, how close are they, do you feel like, at this point? Can you taste it?
They couldn't be any closer. And it's funny because the national narrative on Oregon from a lot of people is, oh, they can't win the big one. Okay, let's examine that a little bit. So I got to Oregon in 1999. That's the year that the uniforms changed. Mind you, there's no NFL, no NIL, virtually no transfers happened. And if you did, you had to sit out. So what you recruited was what you got. And Oregon had to build a program the traditional route, which is recruit, level up, recruit a little better, level up, win some big games, level up. Oregon goes to the national championship against Auburn in 2010. On the offensive and defensive line, those two teams were not the same. It was a 22-19 victory after Dwyer was actually down, but that's a whole nother story. And Cam Newton, they win 22-19. So now you're like, oh my gosh, Oregon's super close. Yeah, you were close in that game and you got to the national championship. But in terms of roster and roster depth, where you used to be able to stack talent so deep, you just didn't have it. Then the 2014 season, Oregon goes back to the national championship. They beat up on the defending national champions, Florida State, in the Rose Bowl. They go play Ohio State in the national championship. Ohio State was more dominant on the offensive and defensive lines. And then 3 of Oregon's top wide receivers were out in the game too. Marcus Mariota fought as hard as he could, but Ezekiel Elliott in that game, I think, rushed for like 260 yards or something like that. It was very evident on the lines of scrimmage. So then you fast forward through the Mario Cristobal era and all that stuff, and then you get to the Dan Lanning era. He has built a team that is fast, physical on both lines of scrimmage. You have never seen an Oregon team that is this deep on, like, their twos, guys like Nasir Wyatt, Aiden Breedland. Those guys would be starters pretty much anywhere else. Their second team defensive line would be a good starting front line for most people. They have 3 corners. One of them is elite, and 2 of them are very good. They have a very good safety, and then Coy Parrish, the transfer as well, was a all Big Ten player. So this defense is an elite defense, and I believe. Do you guys remember how that 2024 Ohio State team was talked about in the preseason, where everybody felt like it's an inevitability? They're going to win the national championship no matter what. And it turned out everybody was right. But if Oregon had ever won a national championship prior this season, they would be talking about this team the same way that they did that 2024 Ohio State team.
I want to go back to 1999 and that uniform change you mentioned. I like the old uniforms. I know they break them out like occasionally, but they're kind of standard, right? They're kind of, especially compared to what we see now. What was that like to see those new threads in 99? And did you have any idea of like the fashion revolution that Oregon was beginning when that all started back then?
So I knew that the uniforms were going to change because when I went on my recruiting visit, they had showed them to us. So I knew that the logo was changing, all of that stuff. I knew that we were on the forefront of something new and something different because that was the way that they painted it to us. They were like, this is a new era. We're changing everything. Innovation is going to be our thing. Like that it's not going to be that our tradition is going to be change and innovation. So you knew that you were on the forefront of something new, but it wasn't until a meeting after my freshman year or my second year, Uncle Phil, as we like to call him, Phil Knight, him, Tinker Hatfield, they're in it's a full team wide meeting. They're showing us some new uniforms, some new jerseys, and then me, the dissenting voice, the contrarian over here. Uncle Phil, I know that you say that we're your favorite team and everything. I'm just curious why we don't have the best uniforms. And he's what do you mean? You have the newest technology, this, and this. I had no. You're 100% right about that. But if you look at the stripes on the side, we have a white jersey and we have a dark green jersey, but the stripes don't match. So we can't mix and match. So we don't even have any uniform combinations while other teams do. And he said, who are you talking about? I said, Miami, they can go orange and they go green. They got all of this stuff. He looked at Tinker and Tinker was like, yeah, he's right. and he asked, what other colors would you want? I was like, yellow, black. That way we can interchange them and mix and match them. And then after that, everything was born.
It's like the Monster Drink logo. If you did that's the Big 12.
Oh my gosh, that thing sitting on the court was I saw a Dan Woken tweet about it. That is just god awful. It is god awful. And here's the thing is we know that in sports and all this stuff, everything is for a sale. If you are an NBA fan, you're used to patches. If you are a soccer fan, you're used to 30 names on a kit. But in college football and college sports, you're looking at the Big 12 sold court space on every single court, a patch on the jerseys, everything else for $1 million a year per team. When these teams are getting in their conference, $4 million a year for a patch all by themselves. And then you got Notre Dame and Ohio State, $15-20 million a patch. And we're sitting here selling it for $1 million. What are we doing?
Well, there is no logo. That's who the conference is. When Texas and Oklahoma left, a lot of people want to fight that, but there's been some teams that have had success, but there is no logo like that. There are a lot of they're all trying, and some of them like Tech are doing even more than others. BYU's a pretty good name, Utah, but there's not a logo. There's not an alpha blue blood in the conference. And so that's kind of who they are. And Yormark's trying to scratch and claw for it. But yeah, you're right. Others are getting 15, 18. Lord knows what Texas could do if they wanted to do it or somebody else like that. I saw your top 25, George. We appreciate your time. Congratulations on the opportunity for you too, for even more exposure. How do you, or is it hard for you to not look at the logos when you put together a top 25 poll?
In all transparency, yes, it is hard to not look at the logos at times. And I'm gonna give you one particular. In general, I would say no. It's easy for me because I literally have a criteria that I go by, and it's not just vibes. but the one that I struggled with when I did my top 25 and when I did the SEC rankings was Alabama. Because I had Alabama 7th in my SEC rankings, and it felt so unnatural. Like it did not feel. It didn't. I was like, hold up. Let me relook at this again. Am I sure that Alabama should be 7th? And I was like, I can't. Like I couldn't even finagle my brain to put them above 5th. So I was like, 5 to 7 feels appropriate. And then I'm looking at who's in front of them. I got Ole Miss. I got Oklahoma. I'm like, how can I not? This is a team that hasn't been able to run the football since Kalen DeBoer has been there. They were like 122nd in the nation running the football last year. They're going to have likely a freshman starting at quarterback in Keelan Russell. If not, it'll be Mack, and he's still an inexperienced player as well outside of that the garbage time in the bowl game. And so young quarterback, not ability to run the football. Those are recipes when you have a tough schedule for multiple losses.
Yep, you're right. And yet it's still, it leans into it. I wish sometimes you could just eliminate the logo and look at the roster, but then you'd still know the teams. Craig, anything else for George? George, we got to go. I know you do too. Hey, congratulations. We'll love to have you on throughout the season. And thank you for your time. We appreciate you so much.
Absolutely. Just hit me up. Enjoy the show. You guys do a great job, and y'all have a good day.
Thank you. George Reister with us, the Unafraid Show, now a part of On3 with us on 365 Sports. And straight from George, Chris Karpman, SunDevilSource.com, covers Arizona State. He joins us on 365 Sports. Chris, it's been a while. Good to have you on. I know you have an out time that you need to hit. So where is it with Boley, the quarterback, and Arizona State football right now?
I think he's a strong favorite to win the job. Mikey Keene coming in from Michigan has a lot of experience, 2,300 reps, started 20-plus games between Fresno State and UCF. He's a very high-floor player, very good operator, understands schemes. He's like a coach on the field. Boley's physical tools are better, bigger, taller, better arm, more mobile. So the whole key thing for Boley is really learning the playbook, demonstrating it without committing turnovers. Today, he actually had a couple fumbles, which was uncharacteristic. He's had only 2 interceptions in 11-on-11 action in 5 practices, which is a pretty good rate overall. I think he's probably 80% or so likely to win the job.
How does he differ as far as playing style and what they will attempt to do with him versus what we've seen the last couple years with Sam Levitt and then, at times a Jeff Sims?
Yeah, that's a good question. And part of the question here is also Kenny Dillingham's going to be calling plays. Last year, Marcus Arroyo called plays until they got to the Sun Bowl, and then Dillingham took over. They had a very explosive offensive performance in that game against Duke. Dillingham loves the alley screens, perimeter screens, getting his offensive tackles who are athletic, out blocking in space. Boley is more mobile than people probably would realize for 6'5" and 220 pounds. He doesn't have that quick twitch escape like Sam Levitt does from the pocket. But when he's moving in some of the play action or a lot of bootleg rollouts to his right, he makes very good off-platform throws. But when they have the type of athletes that they have at wide receiver, Omarion Miller, Reed Harris, Raiden Vines-Bright, super dynamic group there. The key thing really is getting the ball out of the hand of the quarterback to your receivers, unless you're trying to really get down the field, and then you got to have protection and all that. But I just think he's somebody who's good in the quick game for his size. He has plenty of arm to make the throws, and he's more mobile than people will probably give him credit for, to be able to scramble to pick up the marker or to be a bootleg option, have some levels concepts on the roll, and be able to do some first level read option game.
Chris, there's no doubt Dillingham is a hell of a coach, and obviously the 24 team that was just a play away from being in the semis. Last year, a lot of things went wrong. Tyson was hurt. Obviously, Levitt was out. Did he lose any luster to Arizona State fans, or they still love him as much as they did the year before?
Yeah, I mean, I don't think that ASU fans are a monolithic voting block, right? Like, I'm sure some people were probably, displeased and maybe lost some of the juju that they felt for Kenny Dillingham. Last season was the first full year sellout in recent decades at ASU. Like, you got to go back 50 years or something. And he stayed at ASU when he could have probably left for Michigan. They were trying to, kick the tires on that before they ended up hiring Whittingham. So the fact that he's homegrown, that he's such a dynamic personality, that he's really passionately expressed his love for ASU football and sports in the Valley. And as you said there, they had a bunch of injuries. Ben Coleman, their starting center, got hurt against Utah in like the 5th or 6th game. They're having guys who have never played center before snapping the ball. Sam Levitt's playing with the Liz Frank injury and then not playing. Jeff Sims, he's a big drop off, even though he had some good performances. Jordan Tyson's injury, Alford's injury at safety after he was an all-conference player the year before. All of that, and ASU still won 8 games, and people are kind of disappointed. I think that tells you that expectations have been risen in Tempe in a way that is illustrative of people being encouraged by what's going on from a staffing and leadership, not displeased.
What was that like to kind of go through that coaching search period back in December and to know that he's being brought up and that, hey, if this falls through, that just bumps him up another notch? And I know he professed his love to the area and all that. He's from there, but to kind of be on the other side of that, does that just empower him more to have been so widely mentioned for all these big jobs, but to be right where he is?
Yeah, he extracted some pretty important concessions from ASU's leadership to stay in Tempe. They changed his contract so that he gets an automatic rollover year whenever they win 3 games. And so in the next 5 years, they shouldn't ever not win 3 games. So he should get a rollover year every single year. So he's basically now on like a 9 or 10-year contract. They got a lot more staffing compensation, like a couple $1 million in staffing. They've retained all of their key coaches, assistant coaches. They've added some support staffers who are very prominent, like UFL assistant coach of the year that they added, who's an analyst, and others. So they have a lot of stability within the program, which I think came from his willingness to leverage the interest that Michigan and other programs had in him. He really wanted to stay at ASU. I think Michael Crow, the university's president, is encouraging more of the university boosters and benefactors to support football more. They have this indoor practice facility that they're going to be breaking ground on here in the next month or two. That's going to be one of the biggest indoor facilities in yardage in the country, which is going to, I think, really make their practice facility even better. So there's a lot of things that are kind of ticking forward in a positive fashion. And Dillingham is objectively the main reason for that.
Yeah, no, the amount of momentum he has is fantastic. Is there Carde Mack is a freshman, incoming kid out of, I think, Houston, near the Houston area, played high school football. Is there anybody that is impactful? It's early. I mean, it's very early, but anyone impactful that's coming in as a true freshman?
Julian Hugo, he's down from the Austin, San Antonio area. He's going to be a star player. His feet, his athleticism are superior to older guys who have played a lot, and he's 6'5", 6'4", somewhere in there, 275 pounds. I think he was ASU's highest ranked defensive recruit in the freshman class. The 2 highest offensive guys, Jake Fetty and Carde Mack, who you mentioned there, they also look really good. Fetty is actually quite similar to Sam Levitt in terms of stature, athleticism, arm talent, off-platform throws, the twitchy escapes from the pocket and scrambles. Carde Mack is 215 pounds with really quick feet. He makes the jump cuts, the spin moves. He easily finds his way into the hole, and he's got some power behind his pads at that size. And then also Daquan Dunn is a defensive back who's from East Texas. And wow, I mean, he's already passed like some older guys who have played more at ASU and elsewhere on the depth chart. He's fighting to be their 3rd or 4th corner. Marcus Suini is a center who's from the San Antonio area, and he looks like he's really good. 6'4", 310, very good operational skills, strong, physical. He's got a chance to be their second team center. This is the best freshman class that I've seen Dillingham sign in his 4 years at ASU, and one of the best that we've seen in maybe the last 10 to 15 years.
Reaping the rewards of the last couple of years for sure. It sounds like when we think of the Big 12 title race, Texas Tech's out front in the conversation. Everybody's got to at least acknowledge them out front. Maybe others pick BYU. There's some Utah love out there. It does feel like it's kind of Texas Tech and maybe BYU, and then there's a second tier. And I feel like I almost have to remind myself about Arizona State, not for any wrong reason. I don't know. I guess last year, as good as it still was, I don't know. They're not top of mind. Where do they fit in the big picture for you? You see what everybody's talking about. Are they under the radar a little bit, or how do you sort of view that?
I do think that they're under the radar. I don't like the schedule that much. They have to play on the road at Tech and BYU. They have a game in London against Kansas. I think they're a better team, but that's a lot of travel, right? They have to go to UCF in Orlando. They have to play at Texas A&M. So they're playing ranked teams on the road. They have more travel than they've had pretty much any season. They have 9 straight games without a bye week to end the regular season. So like ESPN, FPI, and some other analytics seem to indicate that ASU has the toughest or one of the toughest Big 12 schedules. That could hold them back. But you look at like over-under win projections, and ASU is like hovering in the 6 to 6.5 range. And I don't think that is really a fair representation based upon what I'm seeing right now. I think that they got impact transfers defensively. Owen Long, super talented linebacker, led the country in tackles last year. Jalen Thompson was very good at Michigan State as a defensive end. He's one of their best defensive players. Imarion Winston was a mid-level defensive end starter at Baylor last year. He's added 15 pounds and he looks more physical than he did in the spring. On the back end, their transfers look good. Lyric Rawls coming from Kansas. He had the most unassisted tackles on that team last year. They got Ashton Stamps, who started a bunch of games at LSU as an underclassman over a 2-year period. He had, I think, tied for the most passes defended in the conference over that period. They have a really excellent group of wide receivers. Omarion Miller, Reed Harris, Raiden Vinesbright's their number 3 guy, who looks better than the number 2 guy has been at ASU in a lot of years. And their O-line, Tana Tupuola at center coming in from Georgia Tech, where he started like 5 games last year. They were a very good offense, run game, protections. They've had almost no operational issues, false starts, penalties on offense in 5 practice so far in camp. And they play physical, hard, fast. They're bigger, they're longer. Seems like a team that probably on average is going to win 8 games, give or take. Difficult schedule. That's the only thing that really jumps out at me. And then Cutter Boldy is going to have to do a better job than he did last year, starting at Kentucky, taking care of the football. He has to bring that turnover rate down from over 1 to more like 0.6, 0.7. If he does that, I think ASU has a legitimate chance to challenge some of these top end teams that you mentioned.
Yeah, schedules matter, and yeah, that middle part of September, right? That's the real wild card here. The trip to College Station, then turn around the trip to London, and we know what people say about teams that go play in London. So I guess that's going to be interesting to see, Chris. That little stretch there in the middle, because that's going to kind of set the tone, I suppose, possibly for the rest of the year. But yeah, that's a big opponent, and then a big road trip back to back like that.
And look, Kenny Dillingham was a graduate assistant at ASU in 2015. They went and they played Texas A&M in Houston in like a kickoff thing. Week 0, they got their teeth kicked in, and then they played poorly the next week against an FCS opponent. And then that like lingered, and they ended up having a disappointing season. So you better have like your A game if you're going to be going to College Station and expect to compete and not have that be a demoralizing experience that you then have to play Kansas the following week. You don't You need to win one of those two games, in my opinion, to feel good about kind of where you're at and what you're doing going into an easy game against Hawaii and then a very, very difficult stretch of 8 games to end the season.
Tell CJ Fight we said hello. One of our favorites. I know Dillingham and the program, the fan base love him. And have you done a feature yet on Grayson Rigdon, the former 6-man star, who is on? Yeah, that's just one of those. If you're looking for a light, unique feature, he played 6-man football until his last year, I think, of high school football.
Yeah, I wrote a long story about him winning
okay.
four championships in football and all that.
Oh.
And CJ Fight's having a great camp. Rigdon had an amazing block on Saturday in the stadium. So that he's legitimately a dude. Like he's going to play a lot somewhere very successfully. Maybe a little bit like this guy behind me.
Yeah, absolutely. Hey, buddy, thank you for your time. I know you got to go. Appreciate it.
Thanks, guys. We'll see you.
Chris Cartman, SunDevilSource.com on Arizona State. And Craig, you're right. And I even asked about it, is that they're in that but you don't hear them when we discuss the top of the league, because last year you wonder, is it a combination of where they were to what they ended up? Was it Levitt? I'm interested to see how they not bounce back, how good they will be this year.
I am too. I think that non-con matchup with A&M will be very telling there in week 2, and we'll learn a lot about both teams. I know there's very high expectations for Texas A&M, but yeah, there'll be a heck of a crowd for that, and a heck of a challenge for the Sun Devils. Could make a huge splash though, go and get a win there, but then to turn right around, have to go to London and play a conference opponent in Kansas. Like that's just that's a lot in a couple weeks span, and we know how some teams don't ever quite recover from the overseas trips, and maybe that's just coincidental and there's nothing really to that, but maybe there also is something to that just kind of throws you for such a loop early on and just throws you out of whack. But yeah, those two back-to-back will be a real key period of that schedule, and if they can come out on the other side of that, I mean, hell, if they're 3-0, then they should be like in the top 15 for handling a London trip against the conference team, and also going to College Station and beating A&M. Like they should be top 10 maybe. But yeah, it's going to be easier said than done. And they do get kind of lost, and I'm sure that's maybe just pockets are like that, and maybe in the western side of the country and podcasts like this, maybe they're first and they're top of mind, whereas maybe we think of Houston first or whatever. But yeah, it does feel like even when I'm rattling all the teams off, I've got to kind of remind myself about Arizona State for whatever reason that is. And I think part of it is just they were such a big deal 2 years ago, and then last year, even though it wasn't a bad year by any means, it was just kind of there, and they were in flux the entire time because of all the injury issues and then the Levitt stuff, especially there at the end. It was just an off kind of year as far as in comparison to what you had just witnessed. So now on the other side of that, like new quarterback and no Tyson and more investment for Dillingham, but a really tough first month of the season. What does that look like? I can't wait to find out, because I think he's one of the best coaches in the country and only stands to be climbing up that list in the years to come. And so long as he's in Tempe, then I think that program's going to continue to be built in the direction of the best it's ever been built. So very exciting times, but also, yeah, a little bit of uncertainty, but I think it's a good thing for them to fly a little bit under the radar and not just be, oh, well, they won it last year, they're going to win it this year. Like they got to kind of fight their way back up a little bit, but they're seems like well poised to do so.
Yep, I agree. I look forward to it. We have Joseph ready. Joseph Duarte, the Houston Chronicle, is with us. It's been a long time since we've had Joseph Duarte, who, of course, covers Houston for the Chronicle, with us on 365 Sports. Joseph, 10 wins. 10 freaking wins last year. Willie wins. He builds it the right way. Expectations, where are they on the maybe about where they should be, or up a little bit, a notch or two?
Well, Smokey, first of all, it's good to see you again. It has been a long time, but we know that it's close to football season when we're doing these segments. But yes, after the 10-win season last year came with the Texas Bowl win against LSU. Expectations are really, really high at Houston. They haven't been this high at least in a decade, since the Peach Bowl year of 2015. And you have to go back when they were in a major conference at the Southwest Conference back in the early 90s where uh, that there was this much anticipation. So it's been quite a long time, but Willie Fritz, he's been a program builder everywhere he's gone, and to see the progress from year one to year two was huge. And Houston believes now that they have the pieces in place to be a Big 12 contender and maybe even a dark horse in that playoff field race.
Joseph, what are a couple of the top reasons why you believe that to be the case, that they could be in the mix? What stands above all else as far as the couple biggest factors to you?
Well, number one, with Connor Wegman being back, and this is a guy who has just made a lot of progress since he got here. He's healthy. He's in a system for back-to-back years, just things that never happened for him at Texas A&M. Secondly, they went out and they addressed their needs in the offseason. They upgraded the offensive line, which was a big priority. And then they surrounded Connor with some skilled players. He still has Amari Thomas back at receiver, but they go out and get a Mekhi Hughes, who was, 2,800 yards in 2 seasons at Tulane, including one under Willie. And then you put some complementary pieces like a Trent Walker at receiver, a Patrick Overmeyer at tight end. So they feel like offensively they can be explosive. And then you look at the other side of the ball, very veteran secondary. And their front seven, I think, is where things are going to be a little bit of a kind of wait and see. But there's some returners there. They just feel like they got the pieces in place, and then the depth is much improved. That they have the personnel to make some noise this year and maybe not fade down the stretch like they did last year.
I saw a note. I forgot. It was a quote from Oscar Giles, who, of course, has been around a long time, ties to the state of Texas, that Willie Fritz's hands and fingerprints are on everything. Some head coaches are CEOs. Some of them are more offensive or defensive, that he is a part of everything. And sometimes, that doesn't always work. Why does it work for him, in your opinion?
Well, it works because Willie's been doing this for 35 or so years as a head coach. There's just some cred built up in that. He's won everywhere he's gone. And whether it's the staff or the players, they buy into that. So that's number one. But then, if you watch Willie in practice, he moves around a lot. He's got the microphone that he uses, and he relays messages, and he goes through the different phases, and he does that. It was a funny line the other day. Austin Armstrong was talking about accountability and sort of, maybe not telling players what they want to hear. And Willie was like, well, if my assistant coaches aren't comfortable telling kids bad news and what they don't want to hear, just come get me. I'll tell them. So, I mean, he certainly is a guy that he's got his finger on the pulse of the program, and it's, in so many words, it's the way, his way, and that's how they do it, and that's why they are successful, whether it's at Houston or other stops.
I don't want to get too far ahead, Joseph, because Connor Wegman's the quarterback, but what have just the early returns been on Keyshawn Henderson? And just, obviously it's a big deal to land him, to sign him, and you hope you don't really have to see too much of him because you got Wegman there. But just kind of what are the early returns and what you hear about him?
Well, he went through the bowl practices. He was there the entire spring. So he's been given the total package, as Willie put it. I mean, he's working everything. He's working with the twos in camp, and the idea is that he'll play this year. There's no more red shirts, and with a lot of these guys in the rev share situation, you play players now, whether they're freshmen or not. If they're ready to go, you play them. Now, 2027 against LSU to start the season, that's Keyshawn Henderson's moment. That's his team. That's when he'll be the starter. But I would not be surprised if we see some good doses of Keyshawn Henderson this year, whether it's in, a short yard situation, different packages. They want to get him on the field, and it'll be a good thing because you want to get him some experience heading into next year. But they have it figured out. It's not so much of Connor Wegman having to look over his shoulder. It's just being able to get a young guy some reps, and Connor certainly has served as a mentor throughout this entire process.
What kind of young man is Henderson? What is his personality like? Quiet, calm, confident? How do you describe him?
A little bit of all those things. I've sat down with him before he signed, very grounded. And there's a lot of influences there between his family. And, Michael Bishop was his high
Yeah.
school coach, who goes all the way back to Blinn College with Willie. So, this young man was very grounded. He was getting good, sound advice throughout the process and very loyal. I don't know too many kids who would have shot up the ranking boards, become the number one quarterback in the country, and kept a commitment to Houston for over a year. Those type of kids typically flip. There was a moment where he had a late visit scheduled for Florida State, and he thought about it hard. He was like, you know what, I don't need to take that visit, so he canceled it. To me, that kind of showed what type of person he was, and that he gave his word to Houston, and he kept it. But fun young man. This is the guy that was at 7-7 wearing the Davy Crockett coonskin hat. That's what he wore as his helmet. So he's just a fun kid, and I think it's for Houston, the future looks really bright when you have a guy of his caliber, the highest rated player ever in the program's history, getting ready to take over the program here, beginning in 2027.
How could Amari Thomas possibly be better than he was a year ago?
He was right there at 1,000 yards last year, and it really, it was a slow build up maybe early in the season, and then boom, there was just a run of touchdowns and finished with 12. But just watching him out there, I think he's going to benefit from having Trent Walker from Oregon State. Amari admitted that there were times last year, especially late, that defenses just started stacking his side of the field and made it a little bit tougher for him to get targets. But I think now they have Trent Walker, they have Kobe Young. Those are guys that are going to help open things up. So I would think that Amari Thomas benefits from that, and that's where he becomes better. I think he's proven where he stands in the hierarchy of Big 12 receivers, and I think nationally. And he's a guy that Connor Wagon is going to be looking to very frequent and very often this season.
You kind of answered my other question a little bit there with some of those names, but how difficult do you think it will be to replace Tanner Koziel? And was that his talent at tight end, or do you think the tight end position is still as much of a focus as it was, or was it more about who they had at tight end that made him such a focus, if that makes sense?
Well, they did a lot with tight ends. They would go two tight ends quite a bit. But when you have a guy who had the type of production he had the last 2 years of college, first at Ball State and then Houston, it's hard to replace that. Now, that's no knock on Patrick Overmeyer, because coaches that I've talked to believe this is a guy who has NFL-type qualities and will eventually get drafted. But Tanner had the size, very sure-handed, just all the intangibles. And with Overmeyer, I don't know if you get to that level of 70-plus, 80-plus receptions, because they're going to have probably two or three tight ends that they feel like they can do stuff with. But Overmeyer is not a bad replacement. He's a big guy, and from what we've seen in camp, he blocks well, and he's also pretty sure-handed. So I don't know if it's a fair comparison. I think the quality of production and the numbers will be there a little bit, but Koziel was special, and he was a guy that if you needed a catch in the crunch or on a big third down, he was your guy.
Joseph, Houston is, they're good. And like you said, Willie's done this for 35 or so years, and so it's no surprise, and yet it is kind of a surprise. What were your expectations when Houston was invited to join the Big 10 or Big 12 or whatever they call them now?
They looked into the Big 10.
Yeah, you're right. You're right. What were your expectations of how long it might take for them to hit?
Well,
not in basketball, but football.
Right. It was going to, in my opinion, it was going to be a while, because they went into the Big 12 with Dana Holgorsen, and they were coming off of a really good year in the American, and then things just kind of fell flat. And you could see it with recruiting. You could see it in how they attacked the transfer portal. So right there, I felt like the program was behind, and that's not even counting the money part of it, the budget. Everybody knows they have the lowest budget of any Power 4 program. So I thought it was going to be, a maybe 4 to 5 year climb to go into the league. So now we're what, in 20, this will be the fourth year, I believe, in the Big 12. So maybe a year ahead of schedule. But winning 10 last year, being competitive, finishing 6-3, they should have beat West Virginia, and they probably should have beat TCU. So I mean, they were in the discussion there late in the season. That's the part that surprised me, how competitive they were last year. But really, Smokey, with the way the transfer portal goes these days, you can change things pretty good. Look at Oklahoma State. They're not going to be that bad this year. I think they're going to be really improved, and it's because they made a change at coach and they were able to go and basically overhaul the entire roster through the transfer portal. So it can come quicker than you expect for a lot of programs. And I think that's where Houston benefited because, once they got the 30 transfers a couple years ago, they only needed 19 this year. So you can see where the talent level is and how much they need to add. And that really kind of closes the gap a lot quicker.
So, Joseph, I asked you about Amari Thomas and then also Tanner Kojal. I think it's also a little bit of a question of losing Dean Connors. He was such a huge part of that running game. But for you as a daily beat writer that knows that team better than anybody, what's your biggest question mark for this team entering this year?
It's kicking, and I know special teams, it doesn't necessarily resonate with a lot of people, but you got to remember Houston had about 3 or 4 wins last year that came down to a last second field goal or late field goal. They lost Ethan Sanchez. In fact, right now he's one of the guys that's trying to get that extra year back. So that's in limbo right now. But the 3 guys that are competing for the job, none of them have taken a field goal in college. So, I mean, that to me, that could cost you a game at some point, and that's in this league, you can't lose games that you have a chance or you're set up to win. So for me, kicking game is one. I think that you look at some of the depth issues on the defensive line. I think they're good starters wise, but I still think they need to find some pieces there. But you look elsewhere, and things really look good. They've got to find a few pieces in the backup offensive line, places like that. But they're deep at running back. They're pretty deep at receiver. They've got a stable quarterback situation. I mean, this roster has come together nicely, and they haven't had to break the bank. Houston doesn't have the money, so they're this is one of those your wife gives you a list and goes to the grocery store and you buy what's on that list. You don't veer off. You don't go to the other aisle and you don't look at this or that. You take what's on the list and you get it and you go home. And I think that's what they've done perfectly, and they've been able to construct and build this roster as well as they could.
So if, in fact, Houston plays for a Big 12 title, what can't happen? Besides an obvious big-time injury, what if they do play for one, what does happen?
I'm going to borrow that phrase from Willie Fritz. He always repeats it. Cougs can't beat the Cougs. And what that means is they got to be clean. This is a team that actually under Willie is very disciplined. And I think if you're going to get that far, you can't have, there was a moment last year where Connor Wagon, I believe, had one of the losses, he had 3 interceptions. You can't have those type of games. You can't just give it away. And I think if they get to Arlington and they're at a game, especially a game against a Texas Tech, they're going to put up their points. They have a great defense. You can't just give away possessions. And by the way, week 3 in Lubbock on a Friday night, they get Texas Tech. We're going to find out very early if Houston is a serious player in this race. And if they win that game, changes the national narrative on them. If they lose it, they're still not out of the race, but you can't have very many slip-ups along the way after that, and they would still have to go to Utah, still have to go to Kansas State. Those are 2 tough places to play. So, that first Big 12 opener for them is gonna tell us a lot.
Thank you, man. Great to see you again, Joseph. Appreciate it. I finally got the right number. I've got 1 number under your name. I used to have 4. I have 1.
I would never ignore you, Smokey.
Yeah, thank you, buddy. Appreciate your time as always.
Anytime.
Joseph Duarte, the Houston Chronicle, with us, 365 Sports. Let's break here, and then we'll come back with a couple of the nuggets and wrap it up, and then hit the wheel and quizzes and polls and more. This is 365 Sports and the Smoak Show. North Star Funding Partners. If you're young and you make pretty good money, but you're still not so sure how to build what is the wealth you need later for you, for your family, for your legacy, and for those who come after you along the way. Have you heard about the new IRA, the Insured Retirement Advantage, a strategy for younger, high-income earners, small business owners who want to get serious about retirement? The Insured Retirement Advantage can help you build a tax-free income stream for retirement, protect your family's legacy, and then also keep your capital working efficiently. And you don't need extra high net worth status to qualify. You got to make some pretty good money to start and build along the way, but you don't have to be like filthy rich or just have so much money you don't know what to do with it. Their job is to try to get you that, and they can. Here's the number to call for North Star Funding Partners, 623-256-6902. The website, northstarfundingpartners.com, and tell them 365 Sports sent you.
It's the summer event at Allen Samuels in Waco. Check out the new 2026 Jeep Gladiator Mojave. Your choice is 0% for 36 months or save $10,000. Take off the top, hit the road. Allen Samuels Jeep.
Come by, let's be friends.
Have you heard of the new IRA, the Insured Retirement Advantage? It's a strategy for younger high-income earners and small business owners who want to get serious about retirement. The Insured Retirement Advantage can help you build a tax-free income stream for retirement, protect your family's legacy, keep your capital working efficiently, and you don't need ultra-high net worth status to qualify. Call 623-256-6902 or go to northstarfundingpartners.com and tell them 365 Sports sent you.
It's time to compete against yourself, finding too many excuses not to work out combined with bad eating habits, and Waco Regional Tennis and Fitness can help reach inside your competitive soul. Discipline, getting results you've only dreamed about, personal training, group exercise classes, and even a tanning bed, world-class tennis facility, and pickleball courts and lessons available. Waco Regional Tennis and Fitness, spacious, clean workout rooms, free weights, state-of-the-art technology, weight training equipment, and no intimidation. It's time for you to react today, not tomorrow, at Waco Regional Tennis and Fitness on Lakeshore Drive in Waco.
Hi, I'm Dana Hassel, President and CEO of American Bank. Waco is a great place for business, and for more than 70 years, American Bank has been the bank for business. We continue to invest in our growing community with state-of-the-art branches conveniently located to serve you within minutes. Our experienced bankers, lenders, and decision makers work directly with business owners like you every day, providing tailored solutions, timely answers, and local insights, face-to-face. Schedule a meeting with one of our bankers today and find out what makes American Bank the bank for your business. Member FDIC.
At Home Place Interiors, we elevate your space with elegance and class. We are the exclusive Sonoma tile dealer in Central Texas, bringing you the best in high-end floor coverings that transform your home with beauty and elegant design. Our white glove service and expert consultations ensure your vision becomes a reality as we take you step by step through the process. Call today to schedule your personal design consultation. Visit homeplaceinteriorstx.com. Home Place Interiors, crafting elegance, one room at a time.
This 5 o'clock hour is sponsored by Edward Jones Financial Advisors, Ben Erlinson and Brad Wilson in Waco, and Cam Heathcott in Conroe, with an individualized approach to addressing your financial needs, including education, savings, planning for retirement, and protection strategies. Edward Jones Financial Advisors, making sense of investing. Experience the difference for yourself. It's time for the Smoak Show on 365 Sports with Craig Smoak and David Craig.
One more college football note. It's an historical note. Rez, can you put up the note about Missouri? And the United States Senate, of course, we have been following what's going on in D.C., which, of course, not dead on the vine, the Protect College Sports Act, but now maybe they vote in September. By unanimous consent, the Senate agreed to Resolution 833 and recognized the 1960 University of Missouri Tigers football team for its unbeaten regular season Orange Bowl win and claim to the 1960s national title. Never heard of this before. Never heard of this before.
Definitely heard of teams claiming titles after the fact, especially in the SEC, where it's been more commonplace, I think, than in other places. Just because I can think of Auburn, I think of Texas A&M adding signage, and I think there maybe has been somebody else, but those two immediately come to mind in the last 10 plus years of adding national titles officially. So. Yeah, they're not the first. They won't be the last. This one right here, though, I think
there's an asterisk.
What?
They lost to Kansas 23-7, but Kansas used an ineligible player in the game, and the win was officially awarded to Missouri by the Big 8 Conference, and overall their record ends up 11-0 instead of 10-1.
Yeah, I was going to get to that because I read about this the other day, and I initially just kind of scoffed at it because I thought it was the typical let's go add titles because the local gas station magazine that came out once a month claimed that we were national champions in 1972, even though we lost 4 games. Like, there's been a bunch of that nonsense. That's also part of the fun and silliness of college football, but I don't know. I don't like claiming fake titles, and I don't like claiming foolish titles where it's like very clear you should not really be celebrating that title, but you're doing it for the media guide and you're doing it just to hang another banner. I don't appreciate those titles, but there are some that were not awarded at the time that actually have some justification. They're not all let's rewrite history. And when you look at the details of this one, as I was reading through the article, kind of side-eyeing it, realize like maybe they've got a little bit of a point here. I mean, because yes, they were 10-1 and the one loss they had was to a team that then had to forfeit all their games. So the border war against Kansas was the only loss. And other than that, they were completely undefeated. So I can actually sort of see where they're coming from with this one. I would rather our politicians spend their time on much more pressing matters. And I know that there's a little time here and there to do other things, and not everything's about a war or about funding or whatever. But this one's not the most ridiculous national title claim that we've seen. That's for sure. And there's actually an argument for it. Okay, I'm not going to go crazy over this, even though it makes you wonder why it took 60 plus years to want to suddenly claim it. Well, we can have that conversation, I guess, another time.
Yeah, we can. But that was a note I saw that. And this one at least has some you could see what they did because
there's like 5 1960 national champions, though, is the problem. There's like 4 other teams that also claim the national championship. Yep. So you can't have 4 or 5 national champions for the same season, no matter how differently things were back then, which is pretty ridiculous.
What happens now, and I don't know if this is always the case, if a team forfeits a win, the team they beat doesn't get the win anymore. It's just vacated. They'd
be 10-0 then.
10-0. The game, it's vacated. They don't get a win. They get it's vacated. And like USC with what they did in the years that had some stuff taken away from them. Let's see here. All right. Rez, you lead the way, sir. Spin the wheel.
What's a classic website from the .com boom or early 2000s that you generally miss visiting or genuinely miss visiting? Maybe like E-Bombs World or something like that.
Who?
Yeah, of course. E-Bombs World would be the first thing that comes to mind for me. I don't know if MySpace would apply for the timeline here. I guess that was earlier 2000s. I kind of miss just how genuine that was. And it was pre-influencer and it was let's monetize socializing so that everybody becomes a caricature and just says shit to get people to react to it and get money for it. Like, I hate that culture that we've been living in for the last few years. I cannot stand it. And I hope that it's on its deathbed. I think that we are entering that point where I think this younger generation, for as much as the older people, including myself, be like, oh, can you believe them on their phones? I actually think that studies have shown recently that some of these younger people, like in their early 20s, are actually starting to go like, we don't want all this technology BS, and we don't want to be under surveillance 24/7, and we don't want like they kind of think influencer stuff is stupid, and you know what I mean? And so I feel like we're about to turn a corner, maybe thanks to this next upcoming generation, where we sort of get away from what's been the last few years. But I do miss that period of the internet. That was so much better than what we have now. So yeah, E-Bomb's World or MySpace would be where my brain goes.
What was Napster?
Yeah, that was a music sharing site, and it was great for what it was at the time. It was a way to get music for free, and there was really no other way to get it without buying physical copies of everything. So it was Apple Music or Spotify or whatever, but it was completely and entirely free, which ended up being the problem, is that they got sued by bands like Metallica, and there were big government hearings and everything over it because of, well, copyrights. And they have a point, like, hey, we got 1 million downloads of our latest album, and we're not seeing a single cent. And we would at least sold a few more albums if that wasn't the case. So, yeah, Napster was great for what it was. It couldn't withstand all the legal challenges. But yeah, that was definitely a favorite. What was the Kazaa? Was it Kazaa is what it was called? Like Kazaa, I think, was another version of Napster for music that I used for a little while. And yeah, that was a good one. I definitely have that up there as well. Although now, like, I can just have an Apple Music sub, and that's way simpler and way more stressless. You don't have to worry about downloading songs and whether they're going to give you a virus on your computer or not, and how much room you've got. Like, but that was fun. I discovered a ton, like probably millions of other people, a ton of new music thanks to Napster back in the day.
All right, so there we are. That's the wheel.
Do you have no answer?
No, I said Napster.
Oh,
yeah.
Okay.
I didn't use it much, but I remember the name Napster. Now I have everything in my on my iPhone with the Apple Music, etc. Boy, those little $2.99 or $9.99, all of them slightly going up about every other 3 or 4 months, and next thing you know, you're paying a pretty good amount.
I mean, I understand the framing of that. I think that's more with TV subs nowadays, where it was
Paramount,
$12 and now it's $15. And
Yeah.
I think when you have 4 or 5 of those, then it's like $100. And I think that's ridiculous. Apple Music, I pay $10.99.
Yep.
And I get unlimited music, unlimited downloads, unlimited everything. And as somebody who listens to a ton of music, I'll pay that $11 till I take my last breath. Unless I just have nothing to speak of and I'm on the streets or something, yeah, I have no problem keeping up with an Apple sub for $12 for all that music. But yeah, some of the other stuff, it does add up, and I think you're starting to see that start to kind of fracture a little bit as well. I think everybody as a whole has been kind of under the streamer spell, and now we're starting to get on the other side of that, and you're realizing, like, wow, this is a lot of extra money, and I'm not even seeing all the stuff that I really love all the time. Like, at least originally when I was spending this, I had reasons to, and now I'm just subbed to like 6 things and I watch like 2 of them. What the hell? I see a lot of that kind of going on right now as well. So I don't know. I just feel like trends are starting to turn, maybe slowly, but I feel like influencer and streaming and those sorts of cultures, granted, they've been around for a really long time at this point, I think those are starting to kind of turn the corner just maybe a little bit.
We'll see if there's a new era of something else that either pushes it out or it changes it. All right, let's go to the quizzes. 2 of them today. We've been on a pretty good streak. Hall of Famer Don Nelson, man, this was sad news. Revolutionized the game with his fast-paced Nelly ball style. How many NBA titles did the coaching legend win during his playing career? Not the coaching career. His playing career with the Boston Celtics. He was a part of those Havlicek and Sam and Jones and Casey Jones and Bill Russell and those type of players who were really good. And I think it's 5.
I have no earthly idea. I have little to no knowledge of Don Nelson, the basketball player. I only really know him as the head coach of the Mavericks there for a good stretch of time. And that was a fun period. Could never get over the hump, but definitely set the table for Dirk and the Dallas Mavs to go win a championship eventually. So we'll always be grateful for his contributions and his sons as well, Donnie Jr.
Yep.
But no idea about him as a player. Just never went down that road.
He was a tough big man. He was a tough guy. He won 5 championships with the Celtics. I remember one time doing I don't know what project it was, but it was back even in college when I was at Stephen F. Austin, late 80s, and how many of the Celtics, like Bill Russell, had 11? And, of course, was a player coach a couple of times. But 5 for Don Nelson is the answer. And it is the answer. There you go. Before 1,335 wins is the second winningest coach in NBA history. Nelly won 5 titles, 1966 to 76. His number 19 is retired. He later pioneered small ball with Golden State's The Run TMC, drafted Dirk Nowitzki, Steph Curry, and won 3 Coach of the Year awards. I was very fortunate to be able to interview him. I was fortunate to interview Donnie, and he was such a gentle giant, and yet he was tough as nails at the same time. Good player, really good player. 5 is the answer, Craig. Well, what was the year when they had a hellacious team in the Mavericks, and they got run out by number 8 seed Golden State, who got red hot, and I forgot the guard who was the one who kind of carried them, but he kind of posted people up. He was very, very good for Golden State. All right, quiz number 2. Legendary House of David was known for elite play and showmanship. What unusual accessory were non-member ringers required to wear? You would think I would know this, but I have no clue.
What is House of David?
I have no clue.
I don't know. That doesn't ring a bell, and I feel like I'm clearly I'm missing something, but I don't know how bigger or impactful this thing I'm missing is. I don't have the slightest clue what House of David even is. So,
Rez, do you know? Nope.
Yeah, no idea whatsoever.
Let's think. By the way, Rez, can you show the picture of you now in the studio? Okay, because we have now a camera that's in the studio to make sure that Rez is paying attention. I'm just going to say white gloves. It's the first thing that I saw pop up on the screen. Whoever House of David or whatever that is.
I mean, doesn't really a fake beard seems really preposterous, and so that seemed like that would be a really super silly thing to require people to wear. But white gloves is fine.
Everybody in the chat is saying fake beards.
Okay.
Well, Paxton's saying it a lot, and so is Firefighter.
Yeah, I mean, that seems like the silliest thing that you could wear. Top hat would be kind of silly for this as well. But I don't know what we're even talking about here. So, I mean, whatever you want to go with, I'm fine with.
All right, we're going to go with Paxton and Firefighter, and they say fake beards. How about you guys?
Oh, I also said fake
beards. You
beards.
did. Yeah, you did.
Formed in 1903 by a Michigan religious commune that forbade cutting hair or shaving, the House of David barnstormed in the 1950s. Is there a movie coming out about this or something? Because it's very random.
No idea.
Famous for elite play and trick showmanship, they hired outside stars who had to wear fake beards to match their look. They even won a Supreme Court injunction against rivals copying their style. I mean, yeah, that just seemed like the most.
It's a 2000. House of David is a movie that it came out in January of 2025, I guess.
Is it about this?
I guess so. I don't know. House of David. David won over Goliath, but lost to Bathsheba. Yeah,
that's not the same thing.
Yeah.
I guess they're more like a Globetrotters type of deal based on what we've got here. So, the fake beard seems silly, and so kudos to everybody who shouted that out correctly. And the more you know. Learned a little something today. Never heard of these guys before.
You know, there's some things I don't know, but I damn sure didn't know what the hell he was talking about here. But we got it because of our chat room members. Thank you to the viewers. Okay, let's get to the poll results. 2 of them. And the first one, who's your choice? The number 1 freak athlete on Bruce Feldman's list. It's Nick Harbor, but fan base says nope, it should be Jeremiah Smith again, the wide receiver from Ohio State.
I'm totally cool with it being Jeremiah Smith as voted on. He's got his justifications, and it's just a fun list in the preseason, so it's not a big deal. All 4 of these guys are super freaks, and he's got his explanations and his reasons to why they're on the list. Definitely go check out Bruce Feldman's Freaks list. 100+ players. Like it's kind of silly how long the list has gotten. I remember it hasn't always been that way, right? Wasn't it like 15 guys at one point? But I guess it was so popular that he just kept adding. And plus, I'm sure the schools love. I mean, there's nothing these schools love more than advertising themselves. Like they will crawl across broken glass to get a mention on anything. Yep. So I'm sure that's a big part of the reason why the list has exploded in size is every school's like, we want our guys. So understandable. And yeah, he accommodated. He's got a nice lengthy article you can go read. But I, too, would have probably had Jeremiah Smith at number one. I just think he's such an alien and an incredible player. And the other guys on this list are really good, too. But I would have said Jeremiah Smith.
And he won it, dominated 63% with others tricking Nick Harbert, 23. He's won 3 times as the freak for Bruce Feldman. Last poll question today. Facing a tough schedule, how many wins will Minnesota, PJ Fleck, stack up in 2026? They're in that 7 and 8 type of little stretch. That's kind of what they do.
I'd say probably 7 to 8 wins. Yeah, can't go any higher than that, but just pulling up their schedule here real quickly. I mean, Mississippi State in the non-con could be a coin flip of a type game, but they should be 2-1 at worst coming out of that. And then, I mean, they've got at Washington, Michigan at home. They got Iowa. They got at Indiana. They got at Penn State. They got at Wisconsin. So they got some tough road trips to take and some tough home games as well. But, yeah, I see them in that 7 to 8 win range. I see maybe 3 or 4 games you go like, no, definitely I'm taking Indiana at home against Minnesota. But, yeah, beyond that, like Michigan and Penn State, I guess, if you're just brand shopping, then they would be – I mean, that's still 9 and 3. So, yeah, I definitely think 7 to 8 wins is pretty realistic. And you flip one of those big name games, and you are staring at 9+ straight in the mouth. But I wouldn't be willing to go there just yet. I'll say, 7 to 8 wins.
That's what I said. 48% did too. 81 combined in that 5, 6, 7, or 8 wins. And that's one of the things the Big Ten, they've had this great run atop with the national titles. USC, of course, needs to get a little better. Oregon needs to get slightly better. Penn State needs to bounce back, but they need those in the middle of the pile of Minnesota and whoever else to get a couple of wins better. But if they do it against others that are above them or not. Thank you very much to Andrew Valet. We appreciate him putting all that together, the wheel, the quizzes, and also the poll results.
Uh-oh.
There we are. Craig, look.
Got a little feedback.
There is Rez.
Oops.
We now have a producer camera. Thank you very much, Rez. We're going to use that.
Yeah, I don't know what happened with the
that sounded better.
feedback there.
Sounds good now, that microphone you're using.
Thank you.
All right, we're back tomorrow. One of our guests tomorrow is one of those motivational speakers. He talks to a lot of sports teams and coaches named John Gordon. He'll join us tomorrow and much more for Craig Smoak. Thank you, Craig. We got a lot of blue here. Look at all the blue today, or slightly purple today as well. On the set, 365 Sports, The Smoke Show. See you tomorrow at 3. Thanks for your time and good night.